everybody. I am Sensei Mezzo, and welcome to NINJAGOCast. The dojo is now open. Once again, I'm Mezzo.
I'm Sakota.
I'm Josh.
I'm Bendo.
And I'm Purple.
And hello, everybody. How are you all doing today?
Doing good. I'm
Great
excited.
talk.
Tough crowd.
I actually don't know how I am doing. I'm literally just in a state. And like
No,
that's
I feel
it.
that.
State of being.
I feel that. I was at work all day, and I just got home 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And I forgot to remind you. I promised I would remind you when the podcast was, and I just remembered an hour ago. Oh, I never reminded Purple what the podcast was.
Yeah, I guess that's probably it. I already had kind of a busy day, and then I went out to a cafe or whatever to just kind of draw and stuff, and then you texted me, "Hey, we're doing a podcast in an hour." It's oh crap.
Well, I remembered you had wanted to talk about part 2, so I didn't want to leave you out. I'm glad.
I appreciate that.
I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad
Thank
you
for
all are
having
here.
me.
We already
Yeah.
have 30 viewers. Thank you guys for
Yeah.
coming in. Please let us know how we sound, how everything is looking, how sounding. We got a lot to talk about today. Very jam-packed episode.
Mhm.
Master Garmadon asks Purple. Yes.
Hi.
For those who are not aware, this is famed Ninjago content creator
Oh my God.
Supira, or as we know her, Purple.
Hi.
Old
And
cast member of ours from the TTV days.
Yeah, and as Tumblr may know me as Zaptrap.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot that was your
Yeah.
Tumblr name.
Yeah.
Zapka. What's the story behind that name?
It's just what Cole calls Jay in one episode.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Nice.
You have a lot of
I love
names.
I really do. You can literally carbon date when someone met me based on the name they call me.
Cool though. I love
Not gonna
that,
lie.
actually.
Not gonna lie, the only reason I recognize you on Tumblr is because of a tag that you put under one of my things, and I was like, "Is that Purple?" That sounds a lot like her.
I remember when you first
funny.
started posting Ninjago art again, I was like, that looks a lot like Purple's art style.
Yeah, that keeps happening. It's I just I post art and then people recognize my signature or whatever. It's wait a minute, I know you.
That's fun. Your reputation precedes you.
For real.
Okay, so today, obviously, as the title would suggest, we are going to be talking about Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 2, Part 2. I will warn you all, anyone that would like to listen to today's episode, this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion, and I feel that is very justified, yes?
I literally
Yeah.
thought you were going to say a spoiler-free discussion. I was like, what was this decided?
No. Here's the deal. We've already been more gracious than some of us would have liked to be because these episodes leaked back in July.
How could you, Meso? These episodes just came out.
Yeah,
You
I'm-
haven't
No.
watched it.
I have no idea what
Yes,
you're
it's
talking
2
about.
weeks ago.
No.
We saw these episodes months ago, and we decided to hold off just to wait to not steal attention from the official release. But then we've also waited an additional 2 weeks because of scheduling issues.
Yeah, I was
So,
out of the
no.
country, so that's on me.
It's
But good-
about time we talk about this.
But good thing people had 2 weeks to watch the reacts, right?
Well, yeah. So that's the other thing. I just want to briefly kind of call attention to. First of all, just to conclude that thought, if you haven't rewatched the season, this is going to be the last time I yell at you guys to do this. But please, any of our audience who hasn't watched it on Netflix, please go watch it on Netflix because it's good for metrics. I understand a lot of you realistically probably watched the leaked versions on Peacock. We did too. But for viewership, the success of this show and the continued lifespan of this show is not a guarantee because Netflix can be incredibly finicky with what they do and don't decide to renew. So just go give it a rewatch. it's for the greater good of the thing we love.
Also,
So that's that.
in other countries, you might have to check like whoever has Ninjago, because, for example, for me, I watched it on not Netflix, the official release.
There you go.
So, yeah.
There you go. And the second thing I'd just like to update you guys on, anyone listening, is our reaction videos. Actually, right, first of all, Master Garmadon, does VAR come back as well, or nah?
Nah, he's gone, I'm afraid.
He watched like an episode of Dragons Rising and didn't, he didn't hate it, but
Yep, but I think he's just like too old for the show. Like,
that makes sense.
let's be real here. We're all almost 30.
That's so weird. Never say that again.
So you're older than me. You're gonna turn 30 before me.
I refuse to accept this. Anyway, we dang it. All right. To update you guys on our reaction videos, a funny little thing happened. That funny little thing being copyright strike. And copyright strikes are very rare for us. I cannot even recall the last time we got one. It was many years ago. Just to like info dump at you guys about the intricacies of like how YouTube works for a second. There's two types of things that can happen to you on YouTube. There's copyright claims and copyright strikes. Copyright claims are incredibly innocuous. Whenever something gets identified as copyrighted content, it will get auto matched by like an AI algorithm, and it will say part of the content in this video is owned by blank. As a result, you are not able to monetize this video, or the earnings from your monetization will go towards the copyright holder. Kind of sucks if you're trying to like make a living on YouTube or get some income, but it's understandable. Oftentimes, not a big deal at all. If the video is still viewable, doesn't really matter. And also, you're able to dispute that, and it will go through a review process. And if the copyright holder does not they don't double down on it in 30 days, it'll get relinquished. That happens to every single Ninjago React we ever do. They copyright claim it, I dispute it, it gets cleared up. That's really the end of it. Never an issue. A copyright strike is another matter entirely, when the copyright holder is like, oh, hey, there's content posted on this YouTube channel that violates our copyright. We would like to issue a manual takedown of the video. And when that happens, your video gets removed from YouTube, which already kind of sucks. No one likes it when that happens. We make videos so people view them. But if 3 copyright strikes get issued against a channel, your channel gets deleted. And not just your channel, any associated channel also gets deleted.
What?
Including the TTV channel, which would be susceptible to being deleted.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. So, needless to say, we got a copyright strike against some of our reactions. I'm not going to lie to all of you. I kind of panicked. And we were just like, yeah, well, it's probably for the best if we just delete these part 2 reactions, because I don't want, only one copyright strike came through, but I was like, more could literally come any second. It could be like 5 minutes and more could come in, and then our channels could get deleted. And I mean, could they potentially come back? Sure. But there's a lot of like appeal process that goes through that, and sometimes they don't come back. I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk our body of work over like 15 years for some reaction videos. We did appeal the strike. We have not heard back as of yet, but the reaction videos just got taken down. And to be honest with you, I don't really know what we're going to do about it going forward, because there's some thoughts we've been kind of mulling around, like, well, what if we just, edit them better? We admittedly are pretty lax on our editing. We don't like do fades or like cuts in between stuff, or like a black screen filter or whatever. Could we potentially edit it more? Sure. But like Zach was doing some investigations into like the company that claimed them, and apparently it is just another AI detection thing. And like they could detect like audio, anything could get detected. So we could edit them to high heaven and they could still get struck. So the future of React on Keep the Peace is certifiably TBD. I'm waiting a few days until the appeal like goes through or whatnot, and then I'm just gonna dump all the reacts on a Google Drive, and I'll post it with a community note. I don't want it to seem like I'm trying to subvert a copyright strike right now. If you get me, I'm just kind of letting the appeal process ride out on good faith, and then I'm going to distribute them that way, so you guys can check them out if you want to. But that's the update I got. I just wanted to fill you guys in and apologize for it. It's not ideal to be sure, but YouTube gonna YouTube. Yeah, it's possible, Ahmed. The footage was the leaked eps. It's possible, but I mean, realistically, I'm sure it's just like a trigger happy like person who like saw the algorithm and was like, I'm gonna make an example out of this person. You know, who knows? Really, the reasoning doesn't matter. Just that it happened. So, that being said, one other thing to mention before we get going, Shatterspin. The next chapter of Shatterspin is out. No one but Sakota has read it. No, we will not be talking about it today.
Wow.
I'm gonna be real, Sakota. I forgot it came out.
You guys are slacking.
I did too. I've been slacking on Shatterspin ever since I got delayed 50 times.
Yeah, I feel like the delaying it 50 times was a problem. No one knew when it releases at this point. But please, everyone, support it if you like Ninjago comics. Shatterspin needs your support.
What if I don't like Ninjago comics? No, I'm kidding.
Well, then I don't like you. No.
It's mean, but justified. I'll read it at some point. We should definitely do an episode talking about it. I don't want to let it not,
Yeah, but I feel like we have more than enough to talk about today.
We do. Yes. Now, here's the thing. Sakota, you've rewatched this season recently.
I've rewatched it 3.5 times in total, so yeah.
Oh, wow.
Who else has?
So
I've seen it twice.
I've seen it 3 or 4 times.
Wow. Binda?
3 times.
I have seen it once and have not rewatched it, so
No,
apologies. I'm probably going to be the rustiest one here.
So you should be the one to recap them then.
Yeah,
that'd be funny.
That would be very funny.
No, thank you. So, let's go ahead and get into this. Do we want to just like go episode by episode, or do we want to hit like kind of bullet points? How do we want to do this?
I mean,
I personally think the bullet point approach might be best because there are certain like things I kind of want to hit at, but I feel like we'll be bouncing around no matter what.
We've kind of been doing that approach for Dragons Rising in general, just kind of talking about
it's harder to go episode when we get like the 10 episode releases.
Yeah, it is. Okay, we'll just do that then. Number one, I want to just say, yes, this season is basically Tournament of Elements 2. And they do not shy away from that. They very directly make that comparison themselves in the first episode, which I thought was really cool because it kind of takes that away from like the fandom going like, they're just regurgitating ideas. Like, yes, they are, but they're doing a new spin with it. We have far, far, far more elemental masters than we did last time.
Yeah.
In fact, more than I even like realized. I know that Monerb in our patron chat had talked about this extensively, and he wanted to bring it up. And I will definitely re-echo that sentiment here.
Yeah.
This was the calculated bracket that Monerb made.
He made a chart where it kind of shows like, okay, we have the fights that you see in the actual show, and then like kind of goes back because of which round they're in, how many masters there would have to be.
Oh my god.
And how many
based on,
I think
based on this bracket, we have 64 total elemental masters.
I saw this. Didn't Nox or Noct fight Tox?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nope.
so
But that's That's there, right?
Oh, I see that. Okay, my bad. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I thought that it was Tox and then like an unknown master.
No.
Final count for everyone. There's 64 EMs. Out of those, we only saw 27, and out of those, only 20 were named. Only 24 have named powers, and only 24 fought on screen. Add 1 to all of these if we count Xantans.
Yeah, true.
Oh
because he's disqualified before round 1.
I wish he wasn't disqualified. That bummed me out.
I felt so sad. It was
Yeah.
so depressing.
Yeah, it was depressing, and it also didn't feel like it really had a huge purpose besides just removing one person, but then they added like a million new characters anyway.
It was the classic pick on somebody the audience kind of knows to make them sympathetic.
I'm just thinking about this. Did they ever explain how Black, I assume, got the poison?
I mean, the city goes from like realm to realm. I'm sure he has his ways of travel.
Poison, right?
Yeah, but there was like a very specific poison you can only get in the Mother Garden, and it's guarded by Xantan.
I forgot about that.
I don't think they did.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, me too, until right now.
I'm sure it makes sense. Let's not think about it too much. I mean, okay, the dude does seem like he has like a lot of influence, you know.
Yeah,
I'm sure, and like not
also
to diss Xantans, but he doesn't seem like he has it all together. You know what I mean?
I could also assume that he tricked Xantans because I think they mentioned that Xantans helped prepare the dinner, so maybe he used that as like a distraction to get it or something.
Maybe.
Someone here says, Monarch says, alternatively, I think the writers were going with 32 EMs in the tournament because that number fits way better, but they messed up with Lloyd and Beatrix's rounds, so now here we are. Yeah, if there was one like error, that would like double it.
Yeah, maybe because Xantans was removed, then it wasn't really a proper like 32 or 64 bracket, and they had to do like some weird stuff.
Well, I mean, if we're thinking in universe, it all has to be very improvised anyway because none of the ninja were invited, right? And they're like
True.
7 or 8 people, right? 8 masters.
Forgot about that one.
I mean, Jay was probably invited, but yeah.
I totally blanked on that. Okay. Well, so first of all, before like we get too far ahead, my reason for bringing up like tournament of elements is to say, like, the whole thing is centered around this tournament with all these elemental masters. Clearly, a lot of them were introduced, right? Some of them are returning ones from Tournament of Elements. Some are entirely new. Do we have any favorites who like stuck out to us?
I'm gonna be honest.
Track.
I'm gonna be honest. None of the new characters really stuck out to me. It just kind of felt like they were thrown in because the plot like needed it, and even the characters who like I was interested in, like, I mean, Tox isn't a new character, but like she showed up again and then like didn't really do much. She had like maybe one line. It was like cool cameo, but like
it's more than most people got.
I mean, I feel like they didn't focus a lot on the new ones or the more side characters, except for Frack. I guess if you count Noct as a new one, he's cool.
And Zur kind of a little bit.
Zur, yeah, and Beatrix.
Who was the guy that who was wasn't he called the Devonian?
Yeah, that's Zur.
Species name?
Yeah.
That's Zur.
I liked him.
I liked from like the background characters. I liked the Kragling. I generally just liked the Kragling, but his power looked fun too.
I like the giant one.
Oh yeah, the master of like size. Like I think some of the powers were really cool. The Skullkin who can like multiply was also really a cool power.
That was really cool. The power of surface tension.
Yeah.
So weird. I mean, at this point, I'm just so far beyond criticizing the powers because I feel like we've completely lost the plot in terms of what constitutes an elemental power.
Isn't it really funny when people still get hung up on elemental powers? Because like, since the original Tournament of Elements, and even before that, you could argue, like they even pointed out with Jay, like lightning isn't really an element.
Yeah,
Neither is
so, like,
ice.
speed,
It's usually air and
time.
water.
Yeah,
It's like fire, earth, air, and water. Like the four.
It's just
like
so funny to me when
classic
people
elements.
still get hung up on this when it's been well established so long ago that elemental power is such a loose name for what is essentially just superpowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had more favorites. I do think like one of the consequences of this season being as big as it was, which we're going to talk about, is that the individual elemental masters didn't get a ton to do versus the old ones, which were more like woven into the plot.
Mm-hmm.
But for what it is, there were still some cool like fights and power showcases.
Are you talking about like the new like main characters, or just like the background elemental masters? Because
The background one.
if it's the latter, like I'd had no expectations of them having like any kind of story relevance other than just being there to fight.
My benchmark is like always Karloff. It's like you either are as important as Karloff or you're less than Karloff.
See, I think the Frack was as important as Karloff.
Yes.
And the others not
I'd
really.
say more so.
Yeah.
Frack was like, well, because Frack's a little different because he's technically on Roz's side. I feel like you have like the Roz team and the Ninja team, and those are like the main characters we're focusing on, and they flesh out every single one of those two sides really well. Everyone else is like borderline just forgettable.
They did focus a bit on Beatrix and Zur as well, because
that is true.
Are like these guys are the biggest competition kind of characters.
Yeah.
Which
is nice.
They don't really have a big arc or anything though.
I will say I do have a bit of a problem with two of the cameos in particular, which was Nero
and
Camille. Nero and Camille. Because I would be fine literally if they picked anyone else. Because Nero and Camille, out of everyone, have the powers that would radically change the plot if they were actually like used as characters in the story. And the fact that they're there and never shown and never interact with the ninja, it's just like why did we choose these characters?
My main polar opposite too. Like Nero is like, you know, he's allies with the ninja. He's worked with them like twice before, and Camille is directly opposed to them. Basically.
Yeah.
I mean, my main problem is I don't have much of a problem with Nero, but with Camille, because last thing we heard about Camille was in Hunted, where they said she's like a bad girl now, and I always felt like Camille would be the perfect twist villain for a future season, because she could be anyone, and then you can have the reveal, oh, it's been Camille the whole time. But now she was like in this random tournament without a speaking line.
She's fighting Sora for a single scene, and like there's no way to show how she uses her powers in a fight, so it's just like this really like upsetting showing of her just like falling off the wire and like balance. Like, what did you expect her to do?
No,
and, like,
it's a bad fit for a 1v1.
If she's here, then why is her power not used in the story at all? Especially when your story is like a murder mystery, and you have the power of mind and the power of form. Whatever. Like,
you raise.
I just feel like those are the worst people to choose for cameos. So that bothers me a little bit.
Yeah, if they just had Gravis and like, I don't know, Jacob, but I mean they had
Gravis
a different
Griffin or,
maybe Soundmaster, but
my man,
literally anyone else.
Yeah.
It's just so funny to me that those are the characters they picked. And I'm guessing it's just because they were in sets most recently.
Nero wasn't. He's like...
Yeah, Nero's confusing because he's
like the hardest to get set-wise.
Because she was just in a set recently.
Yeah.
But like Nero, like...
I'm sure they didn't really think about it too much, you know. It's just like a logical failing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even notice Camille in the story.
That's messed up.
I do things while I like watch TV and stuff, and I was like building a freaking bookshelf while I was like watching
she shows up for like half a second.
Yeah, I missed that half a second.
She has purple hair.
I know, I'm a fake fan.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not like a deal breaker. Like, I think the season's like really good, but like that's just kind of something I did want to point out. I feel like a lot of them a lot of them get lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
Most of them do.
But it's also it's like a satisfying build-up of characters we've seen before as well, like seeing Euphrasia, even if she doesn't get much to do, like Geo. Like, it's just cool to see all these characters we've seen throughout Dragons Rising, like, come together for one big event.
I think
I want to complain about people not having more screen time, but at the same time, like, there's a ton of characters.
There's
so much you can do.
I also think the original Tournament of Elements had an important role at the time of expanding the Ninjago universe. They kind of introduced the concepts that allowed Ninjago to go on for this long. And now they kind of like, with all those new masters and all those new ideas, they kind of did the same thing again, maybe for this new era. So I get that a lot of them are just background characters, but maybe we'll see more of them in the future, maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's important to kind of call out, because like it's a difference in approach, you know. Tournament of Elements was about like these people who are pitted against each other as enemies coming together to work for like a greater good. And this season was not really quite that. It had a different goal in mind. So that being said, I want to roll it back, and I want to talk about the first episode, opening with the death of like the matriarch dragon.
That was actually kind of shocking. I wasn't expecting like actual death in the show.
It was crazy.
They actually used like the word death in the German dub, which they never do.
Oh wait, the German dub?
Yes, the German dub, which famously said Nia will just come back in Seabound and Garmadon is just asleep and crystallized. They actually said like, oh, someone killed the matriarch.
That's how you know it's serious.
I forgot about that.
But it's not censored in the German.
Nia will just come back.
I mean, were they wrong?
No.
I have another gripe with the German dub, but we'll get into that later.
Oh boy. Well, yeah, it was just really, it was an effective start, introducing this like mystery, introducing this emotional resonance, something for like Ryu to do. Like Ryu had a lot of really good scenes in that first episode. The baby dragon, like it was good for him. And just it started things off really nicely, but also had some funny moments, because like Rapton came back.
Yeah.
That was great.
Such a delight every time. I think honestly, his appearance here was like my favorite of his.
The first episode was so good, like continuity wise, in my opinion. Like there's so much things from previous Dragons Rising episodes that pay off well. Like we know the matriarch. We know Rapton from previous seasons, and we learn what he's been up to. They go to the administration to find out about like Jay and Arin's parents, and then we have like more lore about like the crowns of the matriarchs and the dragons and all that. So like they really expect you that you've seen everything before that, and I appreciate that, because it all ties it together well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a strong start. It set everything into motion really nicely.
It's hard because my brain really keeps wanting me to compare this to Tournament of Elements, because like I also just look back on Tournament of Elements premiere, and I just love the vibes of how they introduced the tournament and Elemental Masters and like the ferry ride, and like it always impresses me of how well paced that was, to where they got all like the emotional setup stuff from the previous season done, and then they also still had half the episode to set up the tournament and that whole plot. Here, it's like, it's a lot slower, and there's a lot more to do, so I understand why it takes so long. Like, even by the end of episode 2, we haven't even started the tournament yet. And I think that's fine. It's just, like, it's a different approach, and it's just, like, my brain just keeps, like, comparing the two for no good reason, other than the fact that they're both tournament seasons.
I mean, they're allegories. They're in continuity allegories, so I think that makes it okay. You know,
I think it's really cool, like, comparing the two seasons, is that you know, they mentioned that, like, indirectly, that Chin, you know,
he copied
it basically copied the Tournament of Sources.
That is perfect.
And it's really cool, like, seeing like in hindsight, or like going back and being like, the differences between the two. Like Roby and Chin have very similar outfits, but Roby's is very similar, or is very simple. And Chin's is like very over the top dramatic, just like him.
I think they wanted to kind of trick you into thinking that Roby's a Chen-like character, because like that's part of the misdirect, where I think they wanted you to think that he's the the villain.
It's cool because Chen is just like so over the top, like
Yeah.
so dramatic and everything, and it really fits that he would take the the ceremonial outfit or whatever, and then just like completely just overdo it.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, like the Tournament of Sources is like is supposed to be like a fair sport, like they take the elements, but then everybody gets them back at the end, and it's cool to see that like Chen did the same thing, but also in a villain-esque way.
Also,
Yeah.
Where he like I remember you're talking about like how how Chen's the Tournament of Elements was about like people coming together as enemies and then leaving as allies and all that stuff, but like that's the difference between the Tournament of Elements and the Tournament of Sources, is that the Sources, they don't want you to be enemies. They're like it's just
more like a sports event.
Tournament of Sources is like entering as like somewhat strangers, enemies, and then leaving as unexpected allies.
Yeah, the Tournament of Elements is the outlier. Like it's, you're not
it's very much
to come together as enemies, but then intentionally did that.
It's very much in the tagline with like only one can remain. It's always set up like everyone against each other. Where in the Tournament of Sources, people are in like teams. They have their master with them. It's more like a sports event. Yeah. Only one will rise. One thing I heard as a criticism, which I don't personally see it that way, but I heard people say that like the whole it's a copy. Like that Tournament of the Elements is a copy of this, is kind of like a bit like, I guess some people I think feel like it's disrespectful because like it's the original, and now they're kind of saying like, oh, the old one, you've seen that was just like a bad copy, this is the cool one. But I don't personally see it that way because it makes sense in universe. Yeah.
Well, even if that is true, we're like 12 seasons in. Like,
yeah.
Some power creep, quote unquote, is like it's natural.
It would be weird if this was less important than Chen's tournament.
Yeah.
Like, that would be...
Also, Chen's whole thing is like copying from like other cultures.
Okay, so that's also one thing I wanted to mention with the Shatterspin comic. I actually really like the explanation that this is like a copy by Chen, because in the Shatterspin comic, Chen seems a lot more aware about other realms and Ninjago history and all that than he does in the show, and it kind of would make sense that he knows about the tournament.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So now something I want to say that, and this is kind of like a con, personally, and I've kind of thought on this. So we've talked about like the Masters, talked about like the concept of the tournament. I just want to say Beatrix.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
Yeah, I didn't like how they handled her. Like, it kind of just...
I'm not a fan of basically everything to do with
So,
her.
I like some of it, and I dislike some of it. What I like is that she wasn't nice. Because I've, like, in the flashback scene, in the original flashback scene, she gets kind of portrayed as, like, the good daughter of the two. But this kind of makes me more sympathetic towards Beatrix, knowing that she's also very mean and like very boastful with her powers and all that. So I kind of like that angle for her.
Yeah, that definitely adds to Beatrix's characterization and stuff.
Yeah,
having an annoying sister who literally has everything and is also a jerk about it.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like from the start, it's just kind of weird because they've like altered her design so she's like
exactly
a carbon copy.
I really hate that they just gave her Beatrix's hairpiece.
I mean, I know why they did it.
The only thing they changed about her was her hair. They have the same.
Everything else was the same already.
Like face, like they're identical twins in season 1.
Yeah, it's just weird that they like I get it, the misdirect, they wanted that, but it's like when you're changing the design for the worse for this like one little misdirect that didn't even have to be there. Like it just feels
there's one like idea. I don't know if it's canon or not, but I really wish it had been explained this way. But I like the fact or the idea that she changed her hair to look like Beatrix so that she could take over Imperium. Like she had her own agenda towards like taking back Imperium, but now that Imperium is like, now that Beatrix is gone and like dethroned and all that stuff, she can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So now she's mad at the ninja because
It's
they
just-
like ruined her plan.
I've
to
heard
take
that
back-
theory,
All
and
except this
when I
headcanon.
I've heard a theory. When I rewatch it, I tried to look if there's like anything hinting towards that, but not really in the actual show.
Like the reason why she has like a grudge against the ninja specifically,
It's because Lloyd took her out and she wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah, she wanted to take out Beatrix so she could take her place.
It's really funny.
They could
Yeah, I
have
don't know.
done.
I just thought it was weird. They changed the design, and then with them reintroducing her, like they just have a plot hole in the first like 3 episodes because she comes in like mad about how she didn't get an invite.
Okay, no, that's not a plot hole. She just didn't get an invite to the dinner, not to the tournament.
Yeah. I misinterpreted that too the first time.
Yeah, we got
I
that
thought she
wrong
was saying-
in the react,
yeah.
but it's just like she wasn't invited to the dinner.
Yeah, she was like
Interesting.
left out of the banquet and then also wasn't given like a room
Yeah,
because
Odd.
Lex just hates her.
but she got
Which is
her
kind of
invite.
funny, but like
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Beatrix, as like one note as she is, I think she kind of just has like a perfect role within the season of just being like I love her dynamic with Roz.
Mm-hmm.
And how they like have that little rivalry, but then at the same time, once like she's able to actually get the upper hand on Lloyd and knock him out, Roz is just like laughing in this podium.
Yeah.
It's really funny. I don't know.
feel
I
like
think she's
I
just,
would
like-
have rather her had a bit more screen time than she got, but she would need to be a bit of a deeper character to justify it.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, I
I
was
mean-
kind of
She feels like
expecting her
she's-
to like be more important because she's like related to a previous villain, but then like she just kind of appeared and she just kind of was like a little bit of a nuisance, and like there's a whole thing with the prophecy, which honestly I still don't really understand the big deal of. Like Lloyd was going to fight Beatrix in a tournament. Cool. What did his vision really mean? Like why was it such a
mean,
big deal?
He just
I think it's just 'cause he
foresaw
would
that he's
lose.
gonna lose. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was just so like stressed about losing that it like manifested into a vision.
Yeah.
Basically, that's kind of how I interpreted it. I just feel
Um,
like we already here's my big crux is basically just that like we kind of complained about Beatrix being kind of one note, but we were like, well, it kind of works because it was like the starting season. Like she was a perfectly acceptable villain for
yeah,
like
and all
the
the
start
other
of Dragons
Imperium
Rising.
villains.
And it's because
were
Imperium
pretty
is
interesting.
also really
Yeah.
Imperium
I
carries it.
I feel like it is kind of a missed opportunity to essentially have a do-over, but to make her basically the same, if not slightly less interesting. Like I feel like there should have been more to
Yes.
her.
But with a season with so many villains,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
feel
don't
like
think-
out of everyone, I don't think she needed to be like the deepest character.
I mean,
think-
I remember before we started watching, Mesa was like, "No, we're never gonna hear about Beatrix again."
I was positive
you
we
were
would have.
convinced.
Yeah. So I'm
I mean,
glad
yeah,
we
it's-
we learned her
that's
power. I'm
essentially-
glad we learned a bit more about her personality, but I never expected Beatrix to be like a main character.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it could have been interesting later on. I don't know if the season needed her, but I feel like maybe they didn't have any other plan later on, so this was a good enough role. I don't know.
I think it added a good amount of drama to Lloyd's whole thing and gave another added layer of like the rivalries between characters and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I love how it just adds to the whole drama of everything, which I love
think-
so much about the original tournament of elements that I feel
Yes.
like isn't as present here. But like when
I-
it is present here, it's done better. I feel
I
like.
I think in the original tournament, I really liked all the mystery around it and stuff like this, and the drama between the masters. I think what they did here, which was very smart, is like have the two teams, like the
Yeah.
Roz team and the Ninja team, and it's kind of like a bit the I guess Karate Kid dynamic with like one team being more of the aggressive guys and the other one being like the good guys. But I really like the tension there, and then with like Zur and Beatrix as well to add like kind of some misdirects in there as well. I think they did
I
a
did
really good
like
job.
one-
movie dynamic.
I did like the one scene where Beatrix came to give like a very half-baked apology, and
Yeah.
it lasted like 30 seconds before she started throwing hands.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
that was great.
It was really funny.
I don't know. I think she was just a fun curveball. I don't think she needed to be anything crazy. I think
Yeah.
they did what they needed with her. I think her fight with Lloyd was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't really have any problems other than the fact that the whole design thing. I would have much rather she just had her original design.
Yeah.
And felt more distinct than Beatrix a little bit. Maybe give her a little bit more of an interesting personality, but
It's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
I'm front loading my complaints because I have very few.
I'm
and
super upset. I can't believe they ruined this character who I was secretly a #1 fan of. Rah!
You say that, but points at Sakota.
What do you mean?
Beatrix #1 fan.
No, I'm not.
Nobody else cared about
That's
her.
not true. I would never have said like I'm a Beatrix fan. I just wanted to know
I was rooting
more.
for Beatrix return too.
Yeah, I just wanted, like, the main things, I wanted to know what her power is, which I got, and I wanted to know more about her because she was the first elemental master who wasn't from Ninjago in, like, the Ninjago lore, which now is not really special anymore because we have a whole bunch.
Yeah. So, moving along the tournament through line, I want to keep talking about this. We talked about, like, the masters, the premise, the Beatrix thing. I want to talk about the fights.
Dude,
because there were
a lot
some
of them
good
were really
fights,
good.
and then there were some frustrating fights. What, you guys have a favorite fight?
Yeah, the
Yes.
Zane and
Right,
Zero
first
one.
Sora.
Oh boy, Purple, I wonder what it is.
I'll give you one guess.
It was Sora versus Cinder.
Yes, you got
Yes.
it. Definitely, it was. I forgot Cinder was in the season.
You want to talk about, dude? Okay, Cinder had some of the most disappointing fights. I
Yeah.
feel like, which is really unfortunate for me to say because Cinder was so cool in part 1.
I think Cinder
And, like-
versus Wildfire was fine.
It was okay. Like I liked that fight, but it just was too short. But like,
Yeah.
dude, what was Cinder doing against Sora, bro? Like,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on.
I think Cinder is just stupid, and that was like a riddle solving fight, so he had
I
like
think it was
never had a
character,
chance
but it
to
was,
begin
like-
with.
I don't know. He just needed like one cool, like, even if it was in a montage, just a cool like back and forth fight, because it was either he won with no effort or he just like completely got demolished.
He was
Yeah,
a gifted kid.
I think the only I'm a bit disappointed with that we didn't learn anything about Cinder still, and I don't think we will. There was like the one scene at the very end where they turn all the Wolf Mask warriors into like the red version, right?
Yeah.
And Cinder also fights alongside of them, so I assume he's also under control by like the
I
Forbidden
guess.
Five, but it's like, or is it like, was he
kind
in?
of
Was he
hard
in
to
on their
tell.
plan, or did he just like get mind
don't-
controlled? We
I
don't
think
know
What
anything.
happened, I think I'm assuming what happened is he was like on Roz's side when the Wolf Warriors all came out, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna fight the Forbidden Five with
Mhm.
the Wolf Clan and Roz, and then Jordana's like, nope, and then he's like somehow mind controlled, maybe because he shattered
Because-
his goodness so much. so
Maybe
that
because
a
he has
connection
the
to
armor that kind of
wolf
is
masks.
like the mask. Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing it's just like shattering your goodness because all the Wolf Clan members, right, have their goodness completely shattered.
Yeah.
So it's like, I
This
know, it
phrase
sounds
is like a
dumb, but-
flashback. I'd forgotten about it.
But that's just what I'm guessing is if you have your goodness shattered, then you can get mind controlled by the Forbidden Five.
It's probably
I
like a
was th-
strength of will thing, yeah.
I was
Maybe.
thinking that he was mostly just on the side of, you know,
Not.
the Wolf Clan.
Or
Yeah.
yeah.
And now that the Forbidden Five control the Wolf Clan, like he's on their side now.
Yeah. Or he was just like trying to pick the winning team.
Also,
And
like,
Noct
if-
had
if
all the
Cinder's
elemental
trying to-
powers and an army.
Yeah, like if Cinder's trying to like, you know, perfect Shatterspin and all that stuff, like why wouldn't he join the people who invented Shatterspin?
Yeah.
That is true.
But I wish we at least got a little bit of character motivation for Cinder, because there's really not a lot. There was some
Yeah.
nice, like, fun scenes with him, where he, like, has his sleeping mask on and kind of teases
Oh,
the
yeah.
ninja.
His scenes with Wildfire was really
And
good.
yeah, or where he fakes like them beating him up and all that. So I liked his
God, he's such a
characterization,
jerk.
but I didn't. I wish we learned a bit
We don't
about
really
his
learn
like
anything about
backstory
him.
or
We still don't know
motivations.
anything about
Yeah.
who Cinder is, which
Nope.
is unfortunate. And the season doesn't really get to show him like being much cooler anymore than he was in season 1. So, like, I feel like he kind of peaked at like the Cloud Kingdom fight scene,
Yeah,
and then he hasn't
Which,
really
I
lived
mean,
up to that since.
is a normal Ninjago path for villains. Like they're very
Mr.
strong
E
in the
syndrome.
beginning, and then they get weaker as the show goes along.
He really is like the Mr. E of Dragons Rising. He's just like really cool and fun, but we know nothing about him and probably
Yeah.
will learn nothing about him. And he'll just get written out. Which is unfortunate, but
Yeah.
Well, either way.
So,
Talk about your favorite fight.
yeah, so my favorite fight was Jay versus Nia because it basically had everything I could have wanted from Ninjago, like at all. Like I wanted Jay being evil. I wanted Jay fighting someone he's close to. Nia was probably the best option for the plot because, like, they're married. I wanted Jay to do the gong Shatterspin thing, which like he
was
did.
so hype. It was so
Like
hype.
he actually did it. I was just like, oh snap!
His goodness is gone.
It's gone. Like,
He
what
shattered
is he
all
gonna
his
do?
goodness.
he's gonna shatter his goodness. I think he already has.
It's just like, what are they gonna do with him now? Like, okay, I don't know exactly what it is, but what I could see them doing is basically like some sort of like, we gotta go down memory lane, Jay. You gotta, remember all your stuff and blah 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 blah. But I don't know. I think it would be like,
No,
You know
he's
what I really want to
don't know what I
happen?
want. What's up?
You know what I really want to happen?
Hmm.
I want Jay to meet Ericor.
Ooh,
Oh.
interesting idea.
I think that like having him meet like the last Jin and having like either him wish for his memories back or have the presence of
A
the
chin.
thing that only he and Nia remember be the thing that triggers his memories back.
Dude, okay. So Jay has all his like goodness shattered and his like amnesia and stuff like that. But like I'm trying to figure out how to word this. What if like somehow like the bad stuff doesn't like get affected by, well no, he has amnesia already, so God, I'm trying to figure it. Oh wait, no, I remember. My theory was like Jay will become good again when he gets his memories back because the Shatterspin only shattered the amount of good he had at that moment, like post amnesia. But then all like his past memories and stuff like that were just like locked up, so they weren't affected by the Shatterspin, I think.
Entirely possible. I can see them pulling like a rule book technicality to not make him full villain mode.
I'm really scared of what they're gonna do.
I think he's gonna see the crack in the monastery wall that looks like a noodle pot, and he's gonna remember his fun times of eating noodles with Cole, and he's gonna be a fun guy again.
Yeah. Here's what we gotta we gotta brace ourselves. I don't want to be like, I don't want to be the buzzkill, but I am gonna be the buzzkill because I mean someone's got to be. I don't think Arin or Jay are gonna stay like quote unquote villains forever.
No, of course.
But my hope, all I ask for, my single hope, just don't return to the old status quo. They can have new roles in a new setting in a new world.
What I think would be cool for the next season at least is because like spoilers for the ending, Arin ends up with Roz. So they are like a duo now, I guess, for whatever happens next. And I kind of hope that Jay joins like that group of characters for the next season. Like he's together with Arin and Roz.
Maybe, but Roz also cast him out already.
Yeah, I mean, he sent him out to get stronger or something, right? So maybe they'll meet up again. And Arin
can't be choosers.
Arin also only followed Roz because he told him like he knows everything that Jay knows about his parents.
He knows the secrets of the universe.
Yeah. I don't know. I just want Ericor to have relevance again.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would hope so. I feel like they did set him up definitely to like come back at some point, and that would be a good way to weave it in.
I feel like the way
for his
for
memories
us
back would be very on brand.
The way for us to not be disappointed in whatever they do with Jay is to not have any expectations.
My expectations are through the roof now.
Oh no!
Yeah, if I don't see Ericor come back in season 3, I will riot.
They are the thing that's concerning, right? Is they're really building up this whole Jay like return thing. They know it's something people want. They're really like taking their time with it, which I love.
Which is great,
But
yeah.
the longer you do that, the more you build it up like this, the more
Yeah.
expectations are gonna build. Especially when you keep introducing these concepts like Evil J using the Gong of Shattering. That's obviously like a super like fun thing for fans because like stuff like this has existed in the fandom for a long time. And like it's hard to not be really, really worried about how they're gonna do it, especially for me as someone who just really is not a fan of like the whole amnesia angle with this type of thing. I think for them to resolve it in a satisfying way, it's gonna be really hard. But I think with what Mesa was saying, like as long as they have him change or be affected by this, by the time he's brought back, have him go through some new struggle we've never seen Jay go through before, maybe radically affect him and Nia's relationship. Maybe Jay is good again, but they don't get back together. Like something like that. Like just something to change the status quo so it doesn't feel like this was just all for nothing.
I'd love if they broke up. That'd be so fun.
My dream scenario, which I know I just said, don't have any expectations, but like what I would prefer would be if Jay never gets his memories back, but doesn't go full evil. Like he essentially becomes like more or less a new character who's like an ally. Maybe he even falls in love with Nia again, but he's like a new person. And maybe they could do a do-over on their love story to have it be more convincing.
Dude, you read my mind.
Yeah. So, either way, either approach I'm fine with. Both of those could be cool. But like some kind of a change meaningfully.
Yeah. But
Jay
what we got,
just come back and be normal Jay after this.
What we got in this season, I think, was great. Like, I'm very happy with how they pulled it off. I will
always hate you.
That was
don't even remind me of that line. That line was so cringe.
Yeah.
Like I loved the fight, but that line was just like, dude, come on.
The line. It was fun.
I think it's fine.
I thought it was good. I think there's some other dialogue in that scene in particular. I think like this season has a thing where it's like a lot of the dialogue is either really good or like really corny. And for some characters that's great because like I love how corny Roz can be so much.
Yes.
Like, dude, so many of his lines are like so just funny, but also like he can switch from that to being genuinely like intimidating and manipulative, and it's just such a fun like thing to see like how like corny but also intimidating Roz is at the same time. But then you have other side effects of like Jay, where it's like I'm trying to take him seriously as evil Jay, but they're not always doing the best job with the lines he's being given.
I feel like maybe they could have gone a bit more of the he's quiet and mysterious angle than spelling everything out this directly. But I think it was fine.
Dialogue.
I think it was handled well. Yeah. They also didn't spend much time on that storyline in general. So I get that they wanted to make like things very clear. Yeah. What I did think was my problem with the whole storyline is that kind of it's a logistical problem. Like, why didn't Zane go after him?
Right.
Yeah, I think it's just because Zane was needed to like they wanted all hands on deck.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. Zane didn't really do too much.
But it's nice that at least like after Nia got out, she was like, okay, I'm gonna go find him now. But then
that's also So that's also one thing that's like one of my very few complaints I have with this half of the season is like because they balance a lot of stories simultaneously. And it works very, very well for the most part. Like, every episode has, like, some kind of cool cliffhanger for the next one. With, like, someone's storyline with either Cole finding the monastery or Arin meeting Frack and all that. Like, there's always something cool going on. The Nia Ryu getting Kai back story kind of ends very abruptly. And then they're, like, off-screen, they got captured by the Forbidden Five, I guess. And I wish that was kind of at least shown in a little bit before it happens.
I agree.
Yeah. But other than that, I think they balance everything very well. We got a super chat. Sorry.
No, by all means.
199 World of Cars Entertainment. Nia wishes for Jay's memory back. Please don't do that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm good without that personally.
I wish you took my hand and the merge never happened in the first place.
Dang.
No.
Oh God.
Now I will say, we gotta mention it if we're talking about like cons. Zane,
Yeah.
another
struggling.
season, another L.
It's
I
hard.
detected high amounts of truth.
It's hard out here being a Zane fan.
Like, come on, did he have to be the first to go down? Did he have to go down so pathetically?
Dude, okay, I would have been fine with it if he like actually like pulled up and like kind of went crazy in that fight, but he just
Yeah.
like he was just like he did not stand a chance.
They made it very clear that like all the ninjas fights are sabotaged, of course. With
Yeah,
Cole
which
as
is,
well. And I get why Zane was out the first round, because like you wanted to have Nia versus Jay. You wanted to have like Lloyd, he's the master, of course he's gonna be in the tournament the longest, and you want to have Cole with like Frack.
Yeah.
But it's still very sad because like Zane has like had like no focus in Dragons Rising at all. So I really hope that's gonna change soon, which the writers said it will. But
We'll
yeah,
see.
it's hard
Next
right now.
season could. I'm banking on next season maybe being.
I really hope it's next season,
no,
because if I have
slight-
to wait like
slight
2 more
Zane focus,
seasons
like
for
with Kai.
anything for Zane, it would be very sad.
Did Zane do
Yeah.
anything of note in Seabound?
I
He
mean,
was a funny pirate.
He was a funny pirate dude.
Okay,
I think
cool.
that's it.
So the last time Zane did anything of note was like Master of the Mountain. Got it.
And even then,
Yeah,
it's
but
like
even
not
then
much.
he kind of then he
Yeah.
kind of played the same role he does in Dragons Rising, where he's just like the like completely like taking everything super literally.
No,
and then,
Meso,
like,
you're forgetting
making
something.
funny robot jokes.
You're forgetting something, but actually, you probably should forget that. It's
I've
Return of
already
the
forgotten
Return of the Ice
Emperor.
Emperor. Return of the Ice Emperor and
No.
Crystallize.
But yeah,
That
Oh, I
doesn't
love
count.
that episode.
yeah, no,
what
Zane
now?
is
What? It was
Zane
a
is
joke. It
literally-
was a joke.
Zane has done nothing since
Okay.
like being brought back as the like from the Ice Emperor. And he's
Yeah,
just
and
kinda
even
chilled
in
out
that
and-
season, he's like a background character, kind of.
Yeah, he's not even
So
like
it's like, yeah,
himself.
we
So it's
really
like,
need
Zane has been on a
Zane.
downhill thing for like a long time. It's
Yeah,
been a while.
Detective Zane, bro.
That's also something, like, I wish at least once Zane was out of the tournament, they could have gone more Detective Zane with him. But he was
Yeah,
just,
but
like,
then Arin had
chilling.
Aaron had to prove himself. He had to
Yeah,
do it
of
on his own.
course. I get that, but it's like,
It's just
Why-
like there's not room. I think it's a problem of there's literally no room for him to do anything. And
yeah.
it's like we're getting back to the scary point of the cast is getting a little too big again.
I mean, the cast
we
is
have too many
bigger than it
characters.
was, so,
Yeah, the cast is bigger than it's ever been.
yeah.
And right now, it's kind of like a miracle, honestly, that Zane is the only one really fully suffering the consequences.
That's
of that.
true.
I'd argue,
Yeah.
I think everybody
I'd
else
argue-
is doing pretty fun.
Cole
argue
didn't
Cole is
have that
also-
much, but
I think people could be a bit more critical of Cole, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I mean that
Listen,
in the best way.
people are still like just riding high off the scraps, you know, like I don't want to insult. I think I talked about this last episode with like Master of the Mountain, but like it still
Yeah.
holds very true. So long as Cole just has stuff to do, I think people are fine.
Because if we're being
because
real
that's
here,
better.
I think Cole is in a pretty similar boat to Zane. Not on the same level of like Flanderization.
But he has his new family.
so
But,
I think
like,
the
He has
difference.
like implied characterization.
No, I think that Cole,
like-
there
yeah.
is a Cole
It's-
story going on in the background with the Wu Ghost and the monasteries, but it kind of gets sabotaged every time because it's like, Cole, I have to go to my Wu journey, but then he doesn't really go to the Wu journey, or at least we never see it. And then in this season, like, there's the Wu Ghost leading him to the monastery, but then like everything else happens. So that, like, Cole is kind of the connection to the Wu Ghost plot that's going
Yeah.
on, but that's not really like giving him a character arc
I
or
mean,
anything.
I will
Also,
say, and like,
speaking of Flanderization, it's really funny. I noticed that like the difference is that Zane is like has a character trait that can be Flanderized, like the whole being a robot thing, whereas Cole, like, there's really nothing that you can take to the extreme with him.
Bro's a nice dude that likes cake.
like
He's a father
'cause
now.
even if you
Yeah,
compare it
exactly.
literally to just Tournament of Elements, like I feel like Cole was more like expressive there than he is here. Like Cole is definitely mellowed out a lot, which I think is cool, but also at the same time it's like he's not really exciting. He's
If
not
we're
really throwing out any like funny like memorable jokes or anything. Like he's just kind of there.
if we're talking
Which is
about
fine, but,
Cole
like-
right now, I just want to get this out of the way because we probably won't get to it again. The mech, which the mech looked awesome. I kind of feel like, do they really have to tie it to Lily again?
It was okay. I like that they tied it to Lily. I just think the whole mech thing felt very shoehorned. Like
I
this
mean,
is
it's
a
of
set.
course like a set.
Buy
They
the
had to
set.
incorporate it. I think I like the idea that it's
We
kind
need
of
the
like
mech to build a bridge.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't
We
use it
have a
for
dragon
much.
that can fly.
No, they didn't have the dragons anymore. They mentioned
Well,
that
they have Ryu.
Yeah, they could have but I think Nia was already kidnapped at that point with Ryu.
Oh,
I
that's
think.
right. I forgot Ryu won, yeah.
And yeah,
But still,
the mech.
It's like
I like the idea that the mech was like in the museum and from like a previous tournament. But I feel like they bring it back to Lily every time with Cole. And
they do. But
I also think
like,
it creates questions like if Lily joined the previous tournament, was the tournament in Ninjago? And if so, then it had
I
to
mean, at
have
one point it
happened in
had
like the
to
last like
be-
30 years or 40 years, right?
Yeah, you'd think we'd hear about it.
And or Lily was realm traveling, I guess that's possible.
I think it would have been more interesting if they tied it to his like his grandpa.
What
Yeah.
if they
Wasn't
just
his
bought
grandpa,
the?
like,
What if they had
someone
just
else?
bought the mech on eBay for decor?
Yeah, Cole's just
Like,
assuming he's like.
I
Just buy
remember
my
seeing
mom.
Yeah, it's just
somewhere-
something.
I've done
What's
this
his
before.
name?
Buy my
The
mom.
Titanmix.com.
I can't. What's his name? Robbie.
Roby.
Yeah.
Roby. Roby just bought it like last week or something. It's just like this is gonna make things
Yeah.
so cool.
I saw a thing saying like someone was complaining that like, wow, now Lily has 2 mechs. Like she collecting mechs or something, and I'm just like, that's what all the ninja do. They all
Wow, imagine having more than one mech.
I mean, it's
Oh my
like
I want a mech.
we can be happy that we finally have a fully Cole mech at this point.
Yeah, right.
At least. But yeah, I think people unfairly at a point like kind of give Zane all the burden of being like, oh, Zane is the single character that needs work. But I think Cole is almost on the same level. I think what saves him is last season he had some really good stuff.
Yeah, I think
because of
Cole
like the whole finders thing.
Cole at
and even
least
at the
has
beginning-
the finders and Geo and all that and
Yeah, like-
Bonsal. With Zane, he just like woke up in a pod, and we haven't learned anything about that since. Like, there's
Yeah, so,
there
like,
wasn't
I
anything going on even during the merge, since he apparently was just like in a pod, right? So it's like there's nothing to build upon really, which is a bit sad.
I get why Zane gets more of the short end of the stick.
I
but
assume they're gonna bring Pixel back at some point, like they teased it with the
Yeah.
broomstick and all that. So
that's
I
what I'm
hope-
thinking. Like I have a feeling, I have this weird gut feeling that next season is gonna be like Zane reuniting with Pixel in the same vein as like Nia reuniting with Jay.
If
And
it
we're gonna
is, we'll be golden. You know, I'll
Have some
forgive.
nice parallels. Like I think next season might be the one to finally bring the whole team back together by the end. That's my
Yeah.
hunch.
I feel.
Maybe.
I almost feel like next season is gonna really determine my opinion on Dragons Rising as a whole because it's
Yeah.
like last season. Any mistakes could be like written off as, oh well, they just started. Maybe this will be explained later. This season, it's like, okay, we're in it and stuff is happening, but there's still like a lot of loose ends and stuff like that. Next season, we need stuff to like tie together.
I agree. I'm with you there. We need Zane stuff, and we also need to we need to start paying off some mysteries. We need to learn who Roz's master is.
Mm.
You know, we need to learn what the merge is. You
and
know,
how
or like
Wu
why it was
caused
done.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're 3
I
seasons
mean,
in.
yeah,
you know.
there's so much on the table for next
There's-
season because we got like all the
I said
Prevent
this
5
in-
are out there.
I think I said this in our season 1 discussion. Like, there were a lot of open questions in season 1, and I was like, I'm fine with all the open questions as long as I feel like we're getting answers at a consistent rate. And I feel like we do overall.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Like,
Yeah.
so
I feel
I'm-
like with
I'm
all the
confident they
Arin and
have a
Roz
plan
stuff.
for most of the mysteries.
Yeah,
so.
like they're answering questions at the same time as like setting up new ones, which I think is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like with next season, with like all the Arin and Roz stuff, that'll definitely like open up the opportunity for like most of these questions.
Agreed.
Yeah, like Aaron's probably gonna learn a lot, which in turn will help the audience learn a lot.
Yeah.
I want to read something in the chat. Sharnak says, "If we're still on cons, I felt how the Forbidden Five were freed was kind of contrived. Why not use a Blood Moon when there's an easier option? That easier option is killing 3 Arc Dragons and taking their crowns. And
also
I think that
having all
Rox and
elemental
Nox could do
powers.
Yeah, and having all the elemental powers. I think that
We'll borrow a few.
Yeah, well, I think that like while Noct and Rox could probably do it, I don't think that Roz could do it.
I also think
Yeah,
like
and, like,
if the Blood Moon's around, like why not use it? Like the Blood Moon was before the
Yeah,
tournament,
it
so
was
why not go
there.
for it?
They're not gonna risk it with the tournament. The tournament was like a last ditch effort to be like, okay, we have the second chance to like do this.
Also,
not?
most likely the reason why the Forbidden Five are weakened is because they've been in there for thousands of years, and Kai has been in there for like a week. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, no, there's another reason as well. The Forbidden Five, like everyone was weakened except for Rox because she had a connection to the outside via Jordana, and Kai had the connection to the outside via Ryu
that's also
and
true.
Nia. So it makes sense. Bonsal would have to be weakened, but Bonsal didn't really do anything, so I think it works out.
I'm also glad they brought back Ryu's like thing of literally like
They're
being able
using
to,
the elemental spark thing.
Power somebody up with elemental energy.
I kind of like when that first happened, I was like, oh, I kind of forgot he can do that.
Yeah, it's good they set it up early again so you remember, and then they usually get in the finale. They're like, oh yeah, you can do that.
Right,
So, like, even though Mia has her
relevancy.
powers stolen, like she's given elemental energy, which is all that's needed. They just said you need an overwhelming amount of elemental energy combined with the dragon stuff, combined with a connection to the outside world.
Yeah,
Which like everything works like
surprisingly
flawless
well.
with it, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
Can we talk about Noct?
Noct is so cool,
Dude,
man.
Noct is so cool.
He has so much swag.
So, I remember people complaining, or like, weren't y'all talking about last time about how like you were afraid that Noct was going to become like a sidekick or something like that after
Yes.
being after like him, like all of them being hyped up and everything. I like that it was kind of that, but not really. I like
They
that
played it.
he was subservient to Roz the whole time until the end when it was revealed that he was behind like most
Everything.
of the stuff that happened.
I think they played it really smart because I was worried that it's either gonna be that Noct is just gonna serve Roz, or it's gonna be that Noct is gonna like take over really fast and then like Roz is gonna be in the background, but they played it in a very nice way where both of them are still like threatening and powerful and smart, and they set him up to be a cool villain for the future still, while not like making Roz look like a total loser.
Yeah, I think
So-
everybody was handled very well, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Noct does get like the coolest moment of the entire season, though, when everybody is
When he
like
fights
coming
everyone.
at him, and he's
Yeah.
just like, "Bring it on!" and then,
God.
like effortlessly 1v10s
Dude,
everyone.
When he
I
has all
love-
the elemental powers, it's just like it's
I
so
love the stomping he always does like before
Yes.
Shatterspin. It's such a cool like move to power up. I
good. The
really
sound design is so well done. Anything related to Shatterspin is like
the voice acting is great too. Like I could not tell that it's the same voice actor as Arin
Yeah,
for
Devin
Noct.
Mack.
And
As Arin?
yes,
yeah.
Oh,
Devin Mack is
wow.
he's
crazy
doing
Really good.
such a
great.
good
'Cause
job.
he also did the Skull Sorcerer, so like
Yeah.
I'm starting even more to understand why they picked him to do Arin, because he
So
has
good.
the range of villain and good guy. He can-
So
like even by the end of the season with his voice acting with Arin, you can like tell like you can see like the transition from
Mhm.
like good happy-go-lucky Arin to like slightly like a villainous Arin, and it's just done so well.
I also
That's
I
great.
didn't expect when we learned the twist kinda like it was teased the whole season with like Noct and Jordana. But when there was the reveal, I was so glad they showed them at least fighting like one of the dragons. I didn't expect
yeah.
that they'd show that, but that was such a cool scene too.
Yeah,
It was
no,
cool
they
that it was
literally
a-
showed them like hunting dragons.
Yeah.
It was cool how many like I like how many like red herrings they have in this season. Like you think that it turns out to be like all of them. Like it's like you think that it's obviously Roz, and he's kind of behind this because he's controlling Noct, but then it turns out that Roz had nothing to do with like
the
most of the stuff that
matriarch
happened.
part, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's also like Blecht was behind some of it. Like
but Blecht was working with Roz, but yeah.
Right, but there's no like villain who's like solely responsible. Like they all kind of like had different agendas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
they do a good job where it's like you don't immediately be like, oh yeah, Noct is the one who murdered the matriarch. Like that doesn't even it doesn't even cross your mind that much because he's not focused on that much throughout the season. He's like in the background doing things.
It's so good with a rewatch in this season
Yeah.
because you always have the scene of like Jordana and Noct walking like together and talking, or Noct standing in the background watching. It's very like I highly recommend rewatching this season.
There's so many scenes of Noct just listening in on conversations like in the background, which is really cool.
Ew. I'll have to go to rewatch then.
I love that.
If we're on the topic, can we talk about like Jordana and Rocks, I guess?
We may as well.
I love what they are doing with Jordana, just in general. I feel like it's very underrated. I feel like not enough people talk about Jordana's arc or like how they handled her in general. Like, I think it was so cool how they had her, like the setup in last season with like her being hit by, I guess, Rock's spirit or consciousness or something. A lot of people predicted it, but I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's good foreshadowing. And I really liked what they did with Sora and Jordana in this season, where it's like the whole, sometimes it's Jordana, sometimes it's Sora. Not Sora. It's Rocks. And then like Sora finally has like the bravery to tell her that she feels bad about ignoring her and she wished they could have been friends, but in that scene, of course, it's Rocks. I think it's so cool.
That scene was so perfect because like I was worried after season 1 that Sora wouldn't really get much to do, and like she doesn't really have an arc in season 2, but like she has so much good, like so many good character moments and so much growth of her like becoming a better elemental master, but also trying to just be like a better friend and a better person. And like
it's also
as
like
the fallout with Arin is happening, her guilt like catches up to her to the point where she's like, she admits to Jordana that like she should have remembered her. It like maybe it's her fault. Like maybe they could have been friends. Maybe she wouldn't have gone down the path of working with Roz. Like, and it's just like wow. I didn't expect them to go that path.
And I also think
really well.
This is a really cool way. I kind of think they're probably going for a Jordana redemption arc, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I think it's a really cool. It's a really cool way to set that up because like when she's in control, she's kind of helping Sora by giving her that like science formula and all that, and in the end too, where she's like in control again. So I think it's a really cool story of her kind of like her body basically being taken control of, and that's how she realizes she's on the wrong team, basically.
Yeah, that's how she was like, okay, I've gone too far. Because even before with Roz, she's kind of unsure, but she's kind of just going along with it. Cause she's like, okay, I guess this is what I should be doing now. Just to like make a name for herself. And like I was expecting them to go like because what I was expecting going into this was, oh, there's gonna be like a fight between Sora and Jordana, where Jordana's like, now you notice me, now you remember who I am, and like Sora's gonna lose badly, and it's gonna be the whole thing of like now that is never gonna leave her mind. That's like ingrained into her memory. She will remember her from this point on. But they like switched it to like this more interesting like emotional perspective of like Sora being like, what if I actually paid attention to you? Maybe you wouldn't be in this position. Like, I think it's just really interesting. I think they did something more creative and interesting than I was thinking in my head.
We got to give respect to Jordana because she's gone from full on like gag character to like
I think it's
character arc interesting. Like
it's still so funny to me that like when the minifigure names leaked for like the sets last year, people were like, "Who's Jordana?" And now she's like such an important character. Which it's amazing. It's great. And speaking of, I also think it's a very smart way to like slowly introduce the Forbidden Five, like one by one. Like we got Noct out first. Now we kind of like got half of Rocks, and now like with she was talking the most out of all of the Forbidden Five in this season, when they were freed.
Yeah.
So like I like how they're staggered release of the Forbidden Five, kinda, so we can learn about them a bit individually before they're as a group there. So
yeah, they've done a really
I think
good
that's
job.
cool. And I love the flashback scene where we see them like with the masks and the guy from Raz's species, and then the dragons come in.
It's
just
crazy
really funny
because...
how whenever we see them as a group, the other three are just like hiding their faces.
Yeah.
I just laugh every time.
Conveniently, like, not showing their faces, yeah. No, but it's like, part of me thinks, like, if this was like an old Ninjago season, right, and they had to like abide by the self-contained stuff, we would have had a story where where it was like Roz and the Blood Moon and the Forbidden Five, and they all come out at once, and that's the finale for like an episode, and then they're all defeated in like an episode. Like, it's so refreshing to see that we have this opportunity to take the time with the story to where stuff like that isn't the case. We would have missed out on this whole entire storyline if we were restricted to like the old Ninjago format, which is why I love Dragons Rising so much. We're taking so much time with the characters and the villains and setting stuff up, and it's just so much fun.
I love like this is Dragons Rising has made me really love Roz because like it's cool seeing his journey throughout these seasons, from him being like the sidekick to like the main villain, and then that villain is overthrown, so then he becomes the villain of the next season, and then he resurrects or like brings back like bigger villains, and then now they're probably going to be like the main villains, and he's been relegated to like
an anti-hero character in a way, maybe.
They're like they're like
he's
flowing
down on his luck
through villains very naturally. Like we had Beatrix, but then in the background we had Roz's rise to like power and escaping, and then his journey with Jordana, which led into this season. And like this was like Roz's villain focused season, but then next season it'll probably be on the Forbidden Five, and it's just like
I'm super curious where they go with him.
Oh yeah, and speaking of his like motivations and everything, like
reversing the merge.
Yeah, when he explained that, I was like, okay, that's kind of a noble goal. I
like that a lot. I have a lot of questions.
What are your questions?
I mean, Roz infiltrated Imperium before the merge, right? So did he know that's gonna happen?
Maybe he
like because he
his
said like
there's a source dragon. Probably.
He said like all this time he's been working towards that. That's been his goal the whole time. So I feel like he must have known the merge was gonna happen in the future. I guess, right?
I mean, if his master's a source dragon, that would make sense, right?
I mean, if Wu caused it, like how would they know? But I
would imagine the merge is a thing that like all the source dragons like knew about.
Wu knew that it's coming, right? We know that. But he says like, oh, I didn't expect it to happen now. So yeah, we'll see. I hope they have a good explanation for all that.
Yeah,
we shall.
There's a lot of questions with like Roz's actual plan, because he also mentions like something called like the Cauldron of Realms or something.
Bro, I forgot about that.
Go to the Cauldron of Realms and complete
my
master's will.
He says it in like the final scene where Jordana kind of revealed that she's Rox.
Yeah, when he gets betrayed, he's like, "No, you must follow me to the Cauldron of Realms."
Yeah, so we can reverse the
my
merge.
master's assignment.
All right.
Roz is so funny to me.
Roz, what's also really funny to me about Roz this season is like the minifigure version we have in the set is like the red version, right? And he only has that like in the finale because he gets very angry.
Because he gets angry. He's mad. Dude, I love when they're like fighting Noct, and he just turns to Arin and he goes, "Flank him now!"
Dude, that scene was so cool.
Like, oh my god.
That was hype. And they almost got him too if it wasn't for Roby being an idiot.
Sorry, Noct. The games are supposed to be fun, dude.
Peak. Dude, I love Roby so much. He's so funny.
Okay. Oh, I gotta talk Roby.
Like he's very divisive.
I was gonna try and switch topics to Arin, but no, let's talk about
Roby. We gotta say Roby's funny. I'll die on that hill. Some people hate him, and I understand why. I get it.
Roby's very divisive. I think he's funny. I like him.
He walks the very fine line.
he's so close to being cringy that like, but not crossing that line. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like how
I think he is cringy, but I think he's supposed to be cringy,
like-
and that's
it's
like
like in
how
a-
he works.
It's weird because
Yeah,
I've seen so many characters like him that fail tremendously, and I'm like genuinely so impressed. Like I don't know if it accidentally came across as like as likable as he is, or if like they actually like the writers were just so
I
good
feel
at
like
walking that line.
I feel
It's
like
like-
as a
it's hard to tell.
YouTuber, he's a character after my own heart.
Oh my
He's just
gosh.
like he's like Chen's wackiness, but like in this whole new way. Like and it's just so funny. He's just not all his lines are like land for me, but most of them do, and I just he's great.
What were
He's
you?
Yeah, honestly,
gonna say?
when
He's just
yeah,
very
honestly, when he
stang zoot.
first gosh.
Stang Zoot.
when he first showed up, like literally my heart sank. I was like, oh god, he's an influencer. But because like influencer parody characters are so annoying usually, but like yeah, I don't know. I guess it's hard to say because like basically his whole personality is the influencer stuff, but it wasn't too much. It's like he was more than just like the gags and the tropes. Like you could tell that this is a person.
Think
Yeah,
of the
like
whatever.
scene whenever Wildfire lost and he like apologized.
Yeah.
He congratulated her and then apologized for he had to take her power. I think that was kind of like what solidified him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he
Mm.
feels like a believable person. He doesn't just feel like a random like and he has like a lot like he has a lot of moments where you can tell he actually cares about the tournament a lot and the contestants, and like
Yeah.
he wants it to go smoothly and he wants it to go his way, but like he
But
wants to
make
like
it hype.
yeah, he wants to make it like this new thing. He doesn't want it to be boring and stuff. And
He's like
you know,
the anti-Chin, but he's like
cr-
similar in a lot of ways.
it
Yeah, I think
cracks
he's
me up
similar in
so
a lot of
much.
ways. I think that's like very much on purpose. They also very much try to make you think that he's the villain, but I never really thought that, honestly.
Yeah, no, he's like a red herring, but it barely works because he's so like actually kind to like the ninja and everyone else, which is really funny. But like he's so like rude to Blecht, which I think is also hilarious.
Yeah.
like he's so it's impressive how they walk that line. He could have easily been super annoying and just like unbearable. He could have ruined the entire season if written just a little differently. But I think they give him enough heart and enough personality to like let me buy into him, and the humor was actually pretty funny most of the time. So yeah,
Agreed.
I also think he just like you need a character like this for a tournament season who's like the announcer guy and gives all the exposition for every fight. So I think they did a good job of making him like a character that does that, but also keeping it entertaining and fun.
and I like his commentary. I think it adds to like the sports element of it, which I think is really fun.
So,
I can't lie. I know we sort of already talked about this in a previous episode or whatever, but I can't lie. Robbie and Wildfire was actually kind of cute.
It was.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I feel like it got the right amount of focus, and I feel like I don't know, because I feel like a common complaint I've seen was like, well, people didn't want they don't want Wildfire reduced to being like a love interest because they feel like a lot of Ninjago female characters do. I felt like her being the one to like show
initiate everything. Yeah.
Was refreshing enough to prevent it from feeling like that.
The only problem I have is that
and also
it
humanized a good bit.
Yeah, it humanizes her a lot, and also showcases like how much he's grown and more like willing to like accept people and not be so like strict to just dragons, and how much he's learned from Kai. But the one thing I'm not a huge fan of is how it kind of takes away from like her like arc about like living up to Kai, because the first episode kind of seemed to be setting up, and even this like a bit of the second was like setting up how she feels about Kai being gone. And like obviously we had the whole like Wildfire shorts and all that kind of stuff that kind of went over that, but like as we kind of discussed with those, it kind of felt like it should have been in the show, and since it's not, and since instead we get a Wildfire like love story, and like even when Kai comes back, she has like one line that's like, no one messes with the red ninja, and that's
I mean, they hug
literally
and
it.
stuff, but yeah.
But like, I don't know. I think
Very
either the shorts raised my expectations because they made it seem like more of a dramatic thing than it actually is, or like the short stuff should have just been in the.
I kind of see it the other way around because like I think if the shorts wouldn't exist, it wouldn't have been addressed in the show.
I don't think I would have placed as much emphasis on it if like the wildfire like external media just didn't happen, because I feel like I didn't think that deeply about it. Like at the end of part 1, they're like sad that Kai's gone, but I wasn't thinking, oh, wildfire's gonna have like a whole like grieving process about this. Obviously she's gonna be upset, but like I didn't think about that. I was like, okay. So like,
I feel like
if
I
the
would have
shorts didn't
had.
exist, I almost wouldn't have cared as much.
Okay, I feel the
If
other way.
Shorts exist and showed how good like they can dive into that aspect.
I'm
of the
with you,
character.
Bendo.
I feel the
fact
other
that
way
they
around.
Didn't do it is just so.
I feel like if the
disappointing.
shorts didn't exist, I would complain more. But since it's kind of dealt with in the shorts, I'm like, okay, it's fine. Do something
I
different with
still
her.
haven't seen those.
Bruh, Purple, didn't I send them to you twice now?
Did you really? I'm sorry.
Fake wildfire fan.
Really?
Snake Master 245 in the chat says, in a way, Wildfire falling in love with someone involved with leading the tournament is fulfilling the role of living up to Kai.
Yes.
That is true. I recognize that.
I do think that is an intentional parallel a bit. Yeah.
That's for sure. I just think like I would have. I'm fine. I'm not saying they should like ditch the Roby and Wildfire thing. I think that's fine, and I think that's a great way to expand like her humanity and kind of bring her more into like the catch her up. And because like even Arin's like, this is like the most normal thing I've seen her do. It's like have a crush on someone, which I think is really funny. It's just like they really don't focus at all on the fact that like Kai is gone and like how she feels about it. I think if they used her like relationship with Roby to kind of like push more of the emotions of like maybe she's doing this because like she lost a connection with someone she felt close to and now she like can find somebody else or something, like relate it back to that more and not just like pretend like it doesn't happen after the first like 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Also, Wildfire and Arin's dynamic is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad they focused on that a good bit because
in that moment where like they went into Black's office, I was like, okay, we need more of this. We need more Arin and Wildfire. That was such a good like, so much fun.
Yeah, that was a fun dynamic.
Agreed. Is it time to talk about Arin?
Yeah.
Yes.
This was everything I wanted, and it looks like I'm getting it, and I'm pretty jazzed about it.
It was
I'm
very
pretty
well
happy.
done.
Very slow, very natural, and they didn't go like off the rails with it. Like he's not, I hate everyone. I want to burn the world to the ground. He's just more like, I can't really trust you guys anymore, and I have no reason to like rely on you.
And also like,
and
also the whole thing about like, I need Roz because he knows about my parents and his teachings kind of are the only thing that bring me ahead in my spinjitzu. It was a very like smart way they brought everything together they've been building up to.
The scene
because a lot of time
the scene when he unlocks like full spinjitzu and there's like that little hint of
Shatterspin, of red,
and like the music is like it's not triumphant or anything. It's like I don't know. It was
it's like threatening. Cool. Yeah.
Great scene.
Also,
Great
scene was awesome.
Also Lloyd carrying on the first Spinjitzu Masters like family tradition of like losing their first pupil.
Yes. It's the 3rd generation now
Bro
at this point.
Bro thinks he's Ninjago too.
Yeah. The OG.
Yeah, no. It's just like a lot of times in stories when they do this, they get some criticism because it feels like unnatural or not earned. I know Bionicle did. But like this is just that sweet spot of being like not too over the top, perfectly believable, but it's really interesting for the character.
I think,
and it's interesting for like the ninja fanboy to be like disillusioned with them to the point of like leaving.
Yeah, I think they did such a good job with like kind of weakening all his connections to the ninja and strengthening them to like the Roz side with like at first like being disappointed in Lloyd for always pushing back with his parents. Then finding out that Sora lied to him. Then, like, he has a connection with Frack, who's, like, on the Roz side. And then Roz has the one thing he needs. It's very like well done, the process,
And
how it works.
It's all
Like-
tied back to his insecurities about like not feeling like he's improving.
Yeah.
And like
yeah, there's also the like he's not improving with Spinjitzu
Lloyd's
at all. Like,
teaching.
that was like
Yeah.
a whole thing, like to the point where it kind of got like a little annoying where he would bring it up all the time. And then like the minute that he's like follows Ra's teachings, he like immediately achieves Spinjitzu.
Yeah.
It's and I think that they also set it up in the beginning of part 2 where like they go into the administration and his parents aren't there and it's just another setback for him.
Yeah.
And like by the end he talks about how every single time he tries to find his parents, like something else happens, and it's just kind of like
Yeah, and Lloyd always
you
keeps.
gotta agree with him because
The
Even
Master
though it-
Lloyd platitudes are real.
yeah, like even though like the things that keep happening is like the world ending,
Yeah.
it's still just like a thing that just keeps getting in the way of him trying to achieve his
yeah,
goal.
like
I also-
Sora literally has to remind him at the start in like the first scene that like because he's like blaming himself for not getting to the information about his parents faster, and Sora's like, dude, we were like saving the world.
Yeah.
And like he's so disillusioned and like so set on this thing, and like of course like all his insecurities about like not being good enough and just start building, and like all of Roz's like ways to get into his head and stuff. It's just like a perfect just culmination of all these different things, and then also learning that like Sora wasn't the one to or like he wasn't the one to do the object spinjitzu, so like even his best friend doesn't even believe in him and is lying to him. Like Lloyd is like constantly giving him this false hope of, oh yeah, Arin, you're gonna be the best ninja to ever live, and also we'll find your parents.
It's
after
also
I saw a tweet, I think it was by Trist, talking about like comparing Lloyd's character in Sons of Garmadon to now, where he like his flaw is that he like can't see, he always sees the good in people and he just can't criticize them, and like the fact that like Arin needs help, but Lloyd just goes like, oh, you're doing great, you're doing great, buddy, just keep it up. Like when Arin needs like criticism, he needs
yeah,
to be,
he needs like he needs to
rough-
know what he's like
closer
doing
training.
wrong. He needs to know like
Yeah,
what to
and the
improve
fact
on.
that
Like,
Toxic
Lloyd's constantly
positivity.
It's
Yeah,
so
Lloyd-
real. It's so real.
Lloyd's constantly like almost like kind of like just giving him all these false promises, and even like he starts to connect it with like even with Nia, he's like, oh, we'll find Jay, I promise. Even at the end of the season with Sora, oh, we'll find Arin, I promise. Like
I think
like,
it's also
dude,
the overall setting of the season, like we talked about it earlier, that people were like, oh, it's kind of a tournament rehash, but that setting is perfect for the Arin arc because like he feels like he's not in the right place since he's not an elemental master, kind of hamming up his insecurities. But then like Lloyd gives him this task, but he feels like he's failing at that as well, so that hams everything up, and it also like directly confronts him with Raz more, which
so perfect.
so
Everything
it's
is organized so well.
yeah.
It's so
I
satisfying.
remember,
to see
I
them
remember
come
thinking
together.
like, what are they gonna do with Arin if he doesn't have an elemental power? And
He got
Yeah,
the
they
biggest
do it
arc, really.
perfectly.
Yeah.
yeah,
His power is
Yeah.
depression.
Yeah, we love that.
We got another super chat by World of Cars Entertainment, $4.99. My complaint with
Thank you.
Wildfire is I wish they used the fact that she knows Sora faked his spinjitzu throw and then get mad at Wildfire after the investigation. Or after their investigation. I mean,
I forgot about
yeah,
that.
she
She
knew
did,
about it
she
in the
knew.
part
And
1 finale.
surprisingly kept her mouth shut.
I feel like yes, but I don't think it's super necessary.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been.
There was
needed.
enough there for Aaron's twist, but they could have added it on, I guess. Yeah.
I feel like they did the right amount with that plot line. They didn't like ham it up with drama and like, it was the perfect amount of like relevant but subdued.
Mhm.
If it was like, did you know too, and you didn't tell me, like
Yeah,
that
they
would have
didn't
been
need
like
to like
too
do that.
overkill.
The-
I think it was fine with like the whole Sora and like. him
The
having
one
a
thing
falling
that
out.
also happened we haven't mentioned yet is him like the Woo Ghost telling him that he did in fact
Yeah.
cause the merge. So that I feel like
Yeah.
that's kind
Which
of
is,
like
like,
the
the-
final thing that shatters his
That's the
trust in the
final
ninja.
Breaking
Yeah.
point. Because the thing I love about Roz's manipulation so much is that Roz isn't like feeding him lies. Roz
But
is literally
he's-
feeding him facts that Arin would slowly learn are true over the course of the next few days. Like, literally, he's like, I don't need you to believe me now. I just know by the time like you learn this for yourself, you'll
like a really
who you're
intense
following.
manipulation tactic
Yeah.
too. Like, it's
And it,
really hard to like argue when everything you're being told turns out to be true. You just don't
Yeah.
have the
True.
context
Exactly.
for it.
It's
True.
also
And I just love that.
I also like how it plays into Wu as this flawed character being like, because like we see in the flashback with Frack that not Ross, Arin kind of like very much idolizes Wu, and he has like the Wu puppet
Yeah.
he does spinjitzu with, and so does Lloyd. He doesn't believe Arin when he tells him what Roz told him, and once Wu Ghost confirms to him that he caused the merge, that kind of like shatters this idol that Wu is to Arin.
It
I think
shatters
that's-
his spin.
It shatters
No!
his goodness.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me. And like the fact that Aaron's like, of course Lloyd wouldn't believe it. Like, he's so
Yeah.
done with him by the end. I love how like Lloyd is like, there's a scene where Lloyd's just giving advice to Sora, and Aaron, you just see Aaron in the background like giving him like a stern look,
Yeah.
as if to be like, dude, like he doesn't even know if like anything Lloyd is saying is even like meaningful anymore, because he's just been fed so much like praise and positivity to the fact like even though he's not improving, it's just like it's such a well done thing. There's so many different little tipping points and building blocks, and the fact that Roz is able to like pick at each one and be like, here's this weakness between you and Sora. Like, he's even with Lloyd, he's like, oh yeah, sending the one person without an elemental power to like do this is his brand of mentorship. Like just putting these little seeds in his mind to be like, maybe these people aren't who you think they are, maybe you shouldn't be idolizing them, maybe you're on the wrong side. And it's done so well.
I
Like,
also
every piece of it. And the most impressive thing is that all of this was planned, you can tell, from the very first episode.
the one thing
Everything.
which when it started I felt a bit out of place and like it wasn't planned was Frack. Because they introduce him as like being Aaron's childhood friend, but we never
Yeah.
heard about him, and he's the reason he bakes cakes and all that. But I think he works so well in this season because it kind of is like Frack warms up Arin to Roz by like being like, oh, he's such a nice master to me, he's always been good to me, and he shows him like the spinjitzu thing. But at the same time, like Arin goes like, don't use the wolf mask, which is like the turning point for Frack in the Sora fight. So I feel like they kind of like drag each other closer to the opposing sides, which I think was very well done.
Yeah, they like kind of Frack is kind of like a bit of an inverse of Aaron, where he's
Yeah.
like, he's very naive, but he also like figures out, like he's able to kind of have a better judgment and like figure out what side he should be on, but not because like with Aaron it's like he's desperate to like find his parents and he's like he can't improve, but Frack is like he isn't worried about the fact that he'll get thrown out by Roz, because what's more important to him is like what he believes in. So it's like kind of the opposite.
We got a few comments here. Mr. Lego Lover 55. I think it's worth mentioning that to add insult to injury, it's ultimately Wildfire who finishes the detective work when she outs Black instead of him.
I mean, it's
Feels
funny.
bad.
It's funny because like Wildfire at like from the very beginning is like, it's blacked. It has to be blacked. Look how mean he is to Roby. It
Yeah.
has to be blacked.
She just wanted to prove it so bad.
And it's right. So that's very funny.
Yeah.
And
love
then Brick K Production. I don't like how people are saying that Aaron shouldn't be allowed back to the team. Who's saying that?
Yeah, I feel like
I mean,
It's
I
a
know
little over dramatic.
Yeah, I think it's just like a lot of people are hoping, like really hoping Aaron doesn't come back and that he's
That's
just a villain
unrealistic.
forever.
no. I
I
also
like-
think it would be a bad
I-
message in general if he never came
Yeah,
back.
I think
Bro's not
point
even
of
a
Aaron's-
villain now. He's like
Yeah, well,
he's an ally
yeah.
by circumstance.
But like he's like I would consider it like this is like an antagonist. Like he's an
sure,
antagonist.
I
but
think
it's
this
not
is
like this
this
is how he's
is-
gonna stay.
yeah, I consider this like a villain origin story, even if it is like just for a little bit, because I fully expect he'll join the team back by the end.
I think the
and like yeah,
uh,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. The overall lesson should be that Lloyd realizes like the errors in his teaching approach as well,
Yeah.
and I think like to have a satisfying resolution to that lesson, it would have to mean Aaron like coming back and
Yeah.
maybe giving him another chance.
Lloyd has to realize the errors in his teaching, and Arin has to realize the errors in his mindset that
Yeah.
like are kind of like selfishly
Yeah.
putting the world at risk. Because like if he's gonna go along with Roz and even try to undo the merge to get his parents back, that's gonna undo like so much of like what life has become for people. Like you got to think about like the ramifications of that, and I feel like especially if Arin gets to a point where maybe he finds his parents and they see him in the state he is now, like 'cause he said in episode 1 of this season he was like, once I find my parents, I want them to be proud of who I've become.
Yeah.
Then if he finds his parents and they aren't proud of him, like was foreseen in his vision in the cave, or like his fear, his greatest fear, that's really gonna mess him up, and probably also try to like kind of pinpoint him back to the side of being good. I feel like these things are being set up to where you can already see how they're kind of gonna.
But the setup is so good. I'm so excited for the future of
all I
Arin.
ask
You can
for in
see-
stories.
Oh, go ahead.
All I ask for in stories like these are like meaningful arcs, and like for the status quo not to return exactly how it was before. It doesn't matter if something's forever, you know, it doesn't matter if something is just like a permanent change. It's about the journey, and it's about like whether that's interesting storytelling. That's all I
Yeah.
ask for.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the thing with Jay, but in Aaron's case, I feel like with the setup, it's giving me more hope, as like the setup already shows that they have like a clear, at least as what I'm predicting, because Dragons Rising is really good at like subverting my expectations, but in a good way. But like they're already clearly showing like the signs of how this could resolve, and how Arin and Lloyd could both learn a lesson at the end of the day. With Jay, it's not really clear. It's like with the whole amnesia thing, they haven't really set up a lot of how that's going to be resolved or anything. So like with Arin, I have a lot more hope that like they'll do it in a satisfying way, and it'll be good. I don't know how fast they'll do it. My prediction is like by the end of season 2 or season 3 part 2, but there's also a good chance the part 1 like mid-season finale, you know, is about that as well.
It's hard
You
to
never
say
know with Dragons
before we
Rising.
really know what season 3 is about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I'm just
we're-
excited to spend some more time with Roz. I want to learn about
Yeah.
what his deal is. I want to learn about who his master is. I
True.
want to learn about everything to do with him.
But I also think it's now time to get more of the Forbidden Five.
That too. But that's the
Yeah.
thing is like I feel like okay, my also another big prediction is I feel like if Aaron's gonna switch back to the being on the ninjas team, which I think is pretty much like guaranteed, I think there's a good chance we see Roz get a little bit of a redemption arc as well. I think it might be wild, but I think we could see a universe where Roz is on the ninja team at some point.
It's
just
funny.
have
I
feel like that's the direction they
recently
can take.
I re-listened to one of our old podcasts when the first poster for Dragons Rising came out, and Roz was on that poster, and we were like, "Is he gonna be
Oh,
on the
yeah.
team or not?"
People thought he was like a new a new ninja.
LOL.
Funny.
Good times.
But yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. This season sets up so much interesting things for the future of the show. Like it's like I'm so excited to see where they take things, and I think they did a brilliant job of just bringing all these different characters together and their stories, and like intertwining it and having things fit like nice satisfying puzzle pieces, giving us answers, giving us juicy questions. It's like, and Aaron's like the perfect example of like why Dragons Rising choosing to have a long overarching story and not just having self-contained like 10 episode seasons like the past is such a breath of fresh air. And I'm really happy with how it turned out so far.
I've mentioned this before on NINJAGOcast. I love when shows or books or whatever in general just do like parallel storytelling, like with different stories happening parallel, and then they cross over, and then in the end everything makes sense, I guess. And this season did that really well, like for especially like if
so much
like that. I mentioned it on the tier list. I think that I really like that about Hunted, but I feel like this, like everyone had a cool story except for maybe Zane, and they all tied together really well to the overall mystery. And every episode had like a cool cliffhanger in one of these storylines, so it's very, very well done.
So entertaining. Like everything was so interesting and just fun to watch, and like all the character interactions were great. All the fights were great. Like I don't know I don't know how much people could tell, but I really like this season. This is like
Really? I had no idea.
Combined with part one, I think I said this on the tier list stream. Like this is my second favorite season.
I will say this. I said it on the tier list stream that I mentioned that I like part one more than part two. After rewatching part two twice, I'm not that sure about that anymore.
Yeah,
I feel like they're pretty.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I feel like I like part two a lot more in the rewatches than I did it when I watched it for the first time. I think it was probably because when I watched it for the first time, I thought a lot about like the masters and all the lore and all those kind of things. But if I just look at the overall storytelling happening, it's very solid.
I was on the first watch, I was really focused on my issues with the tournament because I think at the end of the day, this is one of the most flawed like Dragons Rising sets of episodes because of how much like the tournament isn't really given a lot of time to shine and how there's like a lot of like battles that
yeah,
feel
we haven't even really
unsatisfying.
talked about that yet. The rigging of like every match kind of takes the
There's,
wind
like,
out of its sails.
There's so many fights where it's like half of the fights are pretty predictable who's gonna win. Like the actual tournament itself and the actual like that whole plot synopsis and setup I think is actually really weak in this season. I think it makes way for like some of the best character stories, but I think it's the most flawed part of the season, which is why when I initially watched it, like that's what I was thinking about the most was like, man, the tournament didn't really live up to like what I wanted from it. I kind of wanted more like tournament drama. I kind of wanted more like this stuff, this and that. But then the more I rewatched it, the more that stuff just kind of doesn't matter to me now, and the more I'm like, this like the way that they
it's probably
combined all
because
these elements together, it's like they chose I feel like they chose almost the perfect amount of focus to give certain elements. I think the main thing that's like really egregious is like the random race that happens.
Yes.
That isn't even really a race. It's like them driving against their Mario Kart ghost data.
Yes.
To like stay in the tournament. That felt really contrived, but like it also was a good setup for Roz and Arin meeting up.
Let's be real, that was just like to incorporate the set, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that was that, and like Cole's whole mech thing I felt was kind of contrived as well. But like it's just like the more I watch the season, I'm just like I almost just don't care as much about the problems. I just love all the stuff it does right.
Lloyd even says that like, yeah, they aren't there to win the competition. Like the tournament doesn't really matter to them. It's all about the mystery of like of the Arc Dragon and all that stuff, and you know the Source Dragon emotion, and you know and all that kind of stuff. Like the tournament's mostly just like a background detail.
Yeah. Which I think when criticizing the season is like a big make or break. It's like if you went into the season being like, I need this to be like the coolest tournament arc ever, I feel like you're not really gonna get that. I think it has a lot of good stuff to offer in terms of the tournament. I think it offers some really fun stuff, but I don't think it's great as like a tournament story. I think it's great as like a murder mystery story more so, which isn't what it was really advertised as and wasn't what I was expecting. But the more I look at it as that, the more I'm like, oh yeah, this was really well done. I think it depends on how
you come in expecting one thing and then you end with something completely different that's good.
Yeah.
So I tend to think of it positively in spite of that. But I feel like, you know, if we are pointing it out, like it is fair to criticize. My specific problem being that like 80% of the matches are rigged, you know, it's like it's not really that satisfying.
It's not 80%. I think it's only like the ones with the ninja, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of
like all the important ones.
The ones that aren't are really good. Like Sora vs. Frack. I'm so glad there was no like rigged thing in that. That was like that's like my favorite fight.
And Lloyd versus Beatrix was also really good.
Those are like my two favorites, I think, because they're just like they're pure character stuff, like first, and then like the action's also really great, but it's just good character moments for them.
I do think the final fight with Nacht versus Sora, I think it was interesting. They wanted to show this lesson of like you have to outsmart him, you have to be yourself, and not like be like the other masters. And I liked how they tied it together with like the control device and Sora having the tech power. But it also felt like Sora should not have stood that much of a chance against Nacht.
Yes, well, I like that Sora was like really good because that makes sense to me that she like became like she was like training a lot and she was like she's grown a lot.
It also helps
as
Arin's
an
arc
elemental
that
master.
she's like kind of like
that she's
super...
like excelling constantly.
Yeah.
It also shows Lloyd's like he's kind of like he couldn't win the fight against Noct for a kind of a really dumb reason, which was like the whole you're not in good enough shape. That was also kind of annoying.
Stupid, anticlimactic, not a fan.
That was kind of lame. But then it made way for like I would have rather he just lost naturally. But like it made way for like Lloyd can't fight, but he can be a good like master, which is like what the whole season's kind of building towards, that he's a master. And he trained, and a big part of why Sora does so well is because of his guidance, and I think that's really important too.
That's true.
We got
that fight's hit or miss because it has some of like the coolest action, but it also like story wise it's a little wacky in execution.
We got 2 super chats. One from Sharnak, $20.
Thank you so much.
Noct and Rox being siblings could be a dark parallel to Kai and Nia. Maybe we'll see similar parallels to the other ninja. Maybe one is a robot, Mr. Epsilon. I don't know. I mean, I really like the idea. I've mentioned that before on previous episodes that I would love like a villain ninja team at some point being the villains. And I feel like the Forbidden Five have the potential to be that. They're like a team of elemental masters who seem like super evil and corrupted. So I
felt
think...
like that was the direction they were going with Roz's group, but I feel like they've all kind of disbanded before we got to that point. Like Roz, Jordana, Cinder, like Noct and Frack, you know what I mean?
It was a very dysfunctional group.
And they broke apart like immediately.
Yeah. I think it would be cool if the Forbidden Five are meant to be like the anti-ninja group. So I'd be down for that.
Because if you remember, it was way back in like the original like the round table for Dragons Rising, where like the people were talking about stuff, and they mentioned how like the villains were gonna have their own like dojo, quote unquote, and be like
Shadow
bringing
Dojo.
people in. Well, yeah, but even in like a figurative sense, you know, like you have one team versus another team.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they've done. I just wish it was longer, I guess.
One of the responses to the super chat, the Forbidden Five are not all siblings. It's just Noct and Rox.
Do we know that?
Well, yeah, but
I know that there was a doc tweet about it. I'm trying to find it.
Okay.
To be fair, yeah, that's all Sharnak was saying was just those two.
I had the idea. I you know, if they are like parallels to the ninja, I had the idea that like if about their elemental powers, since they haven't revealed them yet, if they have like if Lloyd is the elemental master of life. And
speaking of, we got a super chat from World of Cars Entertainment. So Power of Life, $1.99.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there's a source dragon of life that like explicitly says that Lloyd is one of theirs. That the Forbidden Five could also embody, like, the Forbidden Five are the ninja minus Lloyd, and they embody the other Source Dragon elements.
So you mean like one motion element, one strength element?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be cool.
It would be cool if Rox had, if Rox was like the ice equivalent or like the concentration equivalent, and that's why she was able to take over, like possess.
Maybe.
But, you know, it's obviously like we have to wait until season 3.
Yes. So can I talk about Lloyd balance? Not balance, life. So we finally got Lloyd's element reveal. Woo! Yay! It's life. No more energy.
This is the third time it's been revealed.
No, it's never been revealed. It's life. And I want to say I love life as the name for it. I think it's great because multiple reasons. First of all, life kind of ties well into what the Ninjago movie establishes, right? But it also has like the first letters of the 4 elements of creation. So lightning, ice, fire, earth, life.
Oh my god.
I didn't even think of that.
Which, why I thought for a long time I thought life would be a good name for it. So I think I'm very glad they went with that. Also, there was always this controversy that Tommy always insisted that Lloyd is not an elemental master. And that seemed to be retconned by Dragons Rising, since Doc said on Twitter that he is an elemental master. I think by making him the master of life, that's a cool balance between those two statements, because life is not a normal element like fire or heat or, I don't know, lightning, but instead it's a source dragon power like motion or strength or life. So that kind of still makes Lloyd unique among other elemental masters while tying him more into the whole source dragon lore, and I think that's a really interesting idea. So I'm very happy.
Forgot about that Tommy statement.
Yes.
And also
so
tying in that like that idea to the Forbidden Five being the other source dragon or like the other source powers would explain why they're so special and like so powerful.
maybe.
You know, a bunch of
Wait.
Lloyds essentially.
So I
It'll be
really
fun if we ever get the Forbidden Five's elements. I'm just saying. Just throwing that out there.
I hope
Doesn't
we'll
seem
get
to
it.
matter.
real quick about the Lloyd
The
thing.
next Beatrix.
So I really like the name they went with. I think it's a bit weird how they how they gave it to us.
Very
because
anticlimactically.
it's very anticlimactic. It's just like a random announcement. No one reacts to it in a way, even though it's been a long mystery, like both for, especially in the fandom, but also like they've made fun of it in the show multiple times.
I'll say only the fandom. I feel like
No.
it's not meant to be a big deal in universe.
Well, there's a whole scene in Sons of Garmadon where Cole is like, actually, we don't really know what Lloyd's element is. We kind of just assumed it's like this and this. So I feel like the ninjas should have had some reactions to the name being dropped here. Also, it's very weird that this is the first ninja suit that has like, because it has the M-O and then like the first letter of each of the ninjas' elements, and they have E for Lloyd in the season where they reveal it's not energy, which is very odd. Like, why a fail on the finish line?
Because funny.
And finally, what I brought up earlier, they mess it up in other translations. In the German dub, they say energy, and I think in the French one too. So,
Oh my gosh.
Can I say
can't
a take
escape.
that you're gonna hate Sakota?
what?
Go on.
My take that Sakota's gonna kill me for. I think this has as much weight to it as like Tournament of Elements, like Lloyd yelling out energy for his like dragon or like
Heck
Chen
yeah.
I can see
Like,
that.
this is
Yeah.
Like-
this to me does not mean anything. I think we're
Yes.
still stuck in limbo.
I think we're still stuck in limbo. Like, Chen called it power, and then Tommy was like, "Yeah, but Chen is a liar." Roby could be like an imposter who doesn't really know what he's talking about. But I hope it's a good sign for the future, because
My
like
stance
it's
is
very
basically. I am not predisposed to doubt what the official story tells me. And I think it's kind of lazy when you have to like then go on Twitter afterwards and be like, well, this is wrong actually. So I think that like the initial reveal in Tournament of Elements, you said like Chin said it was power,
yes.
but then Lloyd calls out energy in the same season. So it's
He just shouts energy while summoning his dragon.
both
But yeah.
both of those were equally true, but they were only mentioned once because they were in official media. Now
Well-
we have this mentioned once in official media. If this becomes the norm going forward and isn't contradicted, and Doc Wyatt doesn't go on Twitter and be like, well, this is a lie, actually, then this is just how it is. We
I think-
accept it and move on.
Well, I think in universe, it made sense, right? Because no one knew what Lloyd's power is. It was like a unique power that didn't exist really before him, right? So it would make sense that it's not like where would you get the name for your power, right? No one tells it to you because all the others inherit their powers from like their parents.
Well, if you go by One Piece logic, when they eat a devil fruit, the name pops into their head. So I
Yeah, but
always
that's-
imagined it would be the same for
No.
Ninjago.
I mean that. Why would it?
because you get it because it gets very specific at times. That would be my counter. There has to be some kind of like otherworldly factor that lets you know what it is, because otherwise I refuse to believe I refuse to believe the lineage of elemental masters would have passed down the great divine art of surface tension all the way down to like
if the Tournament of
Well, I mean-
Sources exists, it makes sense, right? Because like there's an announcer guide that tells people what their element is. I mean,
Also, to be fair, like elemental power doesn't really work the same as devil fruits. Like people don't choose to become elemental masters. They're
Sure.
either born that way
Yeah.
or like they're chosen.
I'm just talking about like the technical terms, you know, like the spirit of the source dragons like whisper to them or whatever, and that's how they learn the name.
I mean,
you
if
know?
if the source dragons create the elements, right? They created them at some point in time. The source dragons are also kind of like behind the tournament of sources, like indirectly at least. It's to honor the source dragons. So I can see like the tournament of sources having like a registry of all the names, and
Possibly.
like if your ancestors knew the name from a previous tournament, they tell their kids. I mean, I think it's not that like much of a problem.
Superfan Go did a super chat, $10. Thank you so much. Say, I'm hesitant to think it's actually supposed to mean anything when Lloyd and no one else had any reaction to apparently having the same power of a source dragon. Would think that'd be a big deal.
Yeah.
Did they know that life is a source dragon
Yes.
power?
Yes. They also
Yes.
know that life is Lloyd's source dragon. Because the Lloyd,
Yeah.
like they tell
Lloyd
Lloyd
does
in
at least.
the previous.
But
scene.
you could say the same thing in reverse. You could be like, well, you know, you say like it's weird they had no reaction, and then like you could say, well, if it's meant to be a wrong piece of info, then they would have had a reaction. You know, like it's like
I don't think
know.
it's
I feel
supposed to
like
be a
weird
wrong
either
piece of
way.
information. I feel like if they wanted to give a wrong piece of information, like why would they go with the source dragon name? The only thing I can think of is they didn't want to make up their mind, and so they just went with the source dragon name, which is like kind of like the collective name for all powers in that banner. So yeah.
Yeah.
until we
in
learn
Lloyd's
contradictory info, I'm gonna trust it is true.
Yeah.
In Lloyd's vision in part 1, life literally, the source dragon of
Yeah.
life literally claims
Says
him.
like you're one of my masters, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
They're like everybody, like all the dragons are like, who is this? And then life is like, he's one of mine.
Yeah.
You know. So
I
And-
also just like I've said this before, but like I'm really sick of talking about this. No disrespect to people who care. I'm not saying it's a stupid thing to care about, but like this should never have been a mystery. This is only a mystery because of how like ambiguous Tommy and the old like writing staff wanted to play with it. There is no mystery here. This is not like a great thing. Lloyd is a main character. We should just know like what his power is already. Just stop playing around with it. It's not
It should have been
engaging.
explained in like season 2.
It's not engaging. It's not fun having like half your supplemental material and guidebooks just be riddled with lies. It's not great. Just end it.
I
Please
think-
let this be the end.
I think there could have been some value to keeping it mysterious if there was some good payoff, which I think they wanted to do with the Oni form and all that. But yeah.
R.I.P. All right.
But one thing that's kind of related is that which is for me like one of the problems I have with the season. Why couldn't they name Noct's element? Like they
Yeah.
they named everything else. They go out of the way to not name it very weirdly. Like I can't see
he doesn't
any
have
good
one.
reason why they can't just name it.
Because he
I
doesn't
would.
have one.
I hope that they like reveal it, or they're keeping it a mystery until all of the Forbidden Five are.
I'm
proven.
sure they are, but like, what's the in-universe reason? Like, why it was
The elemental
mentioned?
power of friendship.
Thank you. I'm down.
I
No,
wonder
like I
if-
mean,
I wonder if I wonder if it's because like Noct and all of that Forbidden Five like probably predate. You know, they're thousands of years old, and like, you know, if they predate the tournament, depending on how how old the tournament is, like they probably would have them on the registry, and they probably
But,
wouldn't
like,
even know what.
How did he
Noct
get an
power-
invite
Possible.
then?
because of Roz.
Yeah, because yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Which makes sense, but it's
My pessimism take, and I mean, like I've said this before, but just to re-clarify, I do not think we will ever learn their elements, and I'm being completely serious. This is not like a Zeatrix meme. I think that like they have set them up to be elemental masters only so far in as they can learn Shatterspin. I feel like their whole gimmick is Shatterspin, and them needing to be elemental masters is only like the way to have that work narratively. Noct has never used his element, that we know of. It's never been mentioned. That's not their focus. Their gimmick is Shatterspin.
I think
I'm really hoping that like Rox's ability to possess people outside of the nether space is like a hint at her elemental power.
Maybe. And
I
I
think,
mean,
like-
I'd love to be proven wrong because I think that's kind of sloppy storytelling. But like, I think that if we were to learn, it would be in like a guidebook and nothing else.
I think
Like, if-
there is a chance in Shatterspin for it, maybe. Because
True,
it kind
that
of
could
deals
work.
with the backstory of the Forbidden Five a bit. I hope we see it in the show. I feel like yeah, I think you're probably right, Meso, but I don't like it.
Happy to be wrong.
Yeah.
I have faith. I have faith. There's a reason.
I
think
I hope there's a good reason. I just don't see an in-universe reason why Roby wouldn't know.
Yeah,
or
I think
wouldn't
I think
say.
it's weird in the
Yeah.
context of what we have right now. I think later there will be a logical explanation towards
Trust in the
why,
team.
and I think they're gonna use it to elevate a reveal of some kind. I don't know. Maybe
Hopefully.
that's just me having too much faith.
I
but
hope you're right. So
I think
What reveal could
there's-
they
I think-
possibly elevate?
Knowing, because I think I don't know, but I think what they're doing is intentional.
I mean,
because-
maybe the
Alright.
reveal is gonna be like they're all like. I think most of us think that Raz's master is the soul string of strength, right?
I would say it's almost a certainty.
So maybe the reveal is gonna be like all of them are strength elements. That's why they're
I
doing
think maybe Noct
Shatterspin.
has a reason to
And
hide
then
it.
like the reason they hide it is not to reveal Raz's master already. But yeah.
Elemental
Noct-
master of punching, elemental master of kicking, elemental master of I don't know, headbutting.
Whipping around and spinning.
I'm hoping
No.
I'm hoping each of the Forbidden Five, especially Noct, have reasons for not wanting to disclose their power. That somehow, like, Raz was able to convince Blecht and be like, "Hey, I'll have this little truce with you as long as you let this guy in, even though we're not gonna tell you what his power is."
Yeah, but
And
I
then
highly doubt
Roby
that they're
just
gonna
went along
address
with
it like
for
that,
some
though.
reason.
I think it's also more so funny that like the Forbidden Five have such a reputation around them that they're like, you know, the most evil elemental masters in history and all that stuff, and then not
No one knows
you know,
their
one of them
power.
just shows up and they let him in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that like I said, them being elemental masters is just a means to an end. I feel like they kind of wrote themselves into a corner by like needing that as a requirement to learn like Shatterspin.
But I mean, they can come up with 5 more powers, right? Why? Like, what's the problem?
Do you think you have to be an elemental master for like the cup to work?
Didn't they say like
to
wait,
absorb
cup?
powers?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Like if Noct wasn't
Probably.
an elemental master, he couldn't have gotten all the powers from it.
I mean, he couldn't even have
Probably.
joined the tournament, right?
Because he calls himself like the greatest elemental master in history or something
Yeah,
in the finale.
that's possible.
I don't know.
All right,
I have hope. I have
let's go ahead and move into overarching final thoughts. I think. Purple, how did you feel about this season as a whole, or I guess this part? But if you want to talk cumulatively, feel free to.
I mean, it's kind of hard to like judge it like objectively or logically because it literally has like one of my favorite things in the whole series.
You're
but,
allowed. You're allowed to be
Yeah.
biased.
like that definitely adds points overall. Like it was good. I wouldn't say it was like holy moly, this is the best thing ever, but like it was still good. And that goes for just like the season as a whole. Like I'm still really liking like Dragons Rising and all that. So
But I feel like you do have more of like the most like muted take out of everybody, which is fine. That's totally chill. But like why like what is something that like didn't work for you that like kind of brings it down?
I'm gonna be
Personally.
honest. Like even though everything was good, I really like tournament stuff, and so the actual like tournament itself just being more of like the setting rather than like
Yeah.
there
Mhm.
wasn't like a whole lot of tension during the fights. Like you knew who was gonna win and all that.
Mhm.
And like no one was like dying or being sent to like the noodle factory or whatever. Like
Classic.
people were still around. So it's like the the like nail biting action tension stuff, like it wasn't really there, but it doesn't really seem like that's what they were trying to do either. So I still liked it, but as far as the tournament itself goes, I think I still prefer Tournament of Elements just because people quote unquote died, so to speak.
No, I get that. That's fair.
Yeah.
Arin Gingerman's like, but also Arin, we see some red in his tornado. So do you need to be an elemental master to know Shatterspin? I thought they said that.
They did say that, but I've been wondering
Arin's
the whole time how that
exception.
works. I feel like he's not really doing Shatterspin. He's more just incorporating Raz's technique into his normal spinjitzu.
I feel like when we
strength.
blur the lines so much between all these different very specific like martial arts, it's like red is just like an evil motif. I don't want to boil it down too simplistically, but like it was just meant to show that like his spinjitzu is vaguely sinister.
Yeah.
It's probably just meant to represent the strength instead
like
of motion.
Just like the techniques used by Raz's team.
Yeah. Shatterspin is specifically the shattering of goodness and nothing else.
Shatterspin is just what allows you to use the evil.
Gotta shatter your goodness
there
efficiently, bro.
There are also some Shatterspin details in the second issue of Garmadon, so I'm not gonna spoil that right now, but
sounds like we need to go read it.
Yeah, you should probably read it.
May have been helpful. Oops.
Next time. No, it's fine.
But I feel like they make things in some aspects even more confusing, but oh well.
Oh, lovely. Wonderful. I can't wait. When does the third issue come out?
I'm not sure right now because they move dates around so much.
Probably like
if
four months
anywhere,
from what the date says.
If it's like a month from now, I have half a mind to just wait until like the next issue comes out.
Yeah.
But if it's like December, then
I mean, I feel like
not.
I don't think we can do a full episode on just Shatterspin, but I mean
we could on 2 issues.
Yeah, maybe.
Also depends on what like set pictures come out and stuff, because that's
November 20th, 2024 currently.
That's still
So
a while.
Okay, so
Yeah.
So give it till February. There you go. That's when we'll be out.
Josh, what did you think of this season now that you've had some time to ruminate on it?
I really enjoyed it. I as a whole, like, this whole season has been fantastic. I really like how a lot of stuff that was set up in part 1 was finished, I guess, like really well in part 2 to me. Especially like the Jordana stuff, the Nox stuff. Like all of their storylines were really well done. But
There you go.
Very good.
Fair enough. Sakota?
I really like it a lot more than I did when I first watched it now. I think this is really a season you should rewatch. There's a lot of small stuff I really appreciate. I have some like issues with it, which are mostly like some lore stuff that is a bit confusing right now, or some like I don't know how to best describe it. Some like logistical stuff, like what is this person doing at this point in the story and things like that. But if you like kind of know where it's going and you rewatch it, you can see the character stories a lot better and where it's all building to. And I feel like the important goals it reaches very well, and I think they focused on the right things overall. So I'm very happy with the general seasons. I think like the strongest part is of course Arin's arc, and the like kind of like Lloyd's leadership failing story. But I also really like the background stories, especially with like the Forbidden Five, Nocturne, and Rox. And I like Wildfire and Roby. I think they're a lot of fun. And
I agree.
I also think like they found good stuff to do for Ryu. They found pretty good stuff to do for Cole, I think. Not so much maybe for Zane, but something we also haven't really talked at all about is Kai and Bonsal. I think like they've had the right amount of Kai and Bonsal, but then like when he comes back, that scene is so cool. So
Yeah.
Dragons Rising keeps making me like Kai, which I didn't expect for a long time, and I'm very glad they did. And
The
so,
fact
yeah.
that Kai came back and could throw hands with Noct was like a really cool moment for him.
Yeah.
Kai stocks are rising.
There were some really good fight scenes. Like some of the fights were very short or just like in a collage, but the ones they focused on that had like the bigger emotional impact as well. Those were really good fights, so I'm very happy with the overall season, and I also really like how it works together with part 1, even though it's 2 very distinct like settings. So I'm very happy with this season. I think like after rewatching this again, I think I probably rank it higher in our tier list than I did when we did that stream.
Well, there you go. Binda?
The season's really good. Like, both parts combined is like my second favorite season of the show. Both parts on their own would probably still be like my second and third favorite season of the show, like seasons of the show. Like, this genuinely, like, we have been in such a state where people have just been like, kind of like each season has been coming out like with the 11-minute seasons, and people always go back, okay, the Oni trilogy was like the peak of the show, like we're never gonna get back to that, like the stuff is fun, but like the Oni trilogy was really where like everything came together and the show felt like super serious and cool, and like it was evolving with its audience, and it was like all this stuff. I think we have not only met that level again, but I think with part 2 of the season we have surpassed it. I think this is, as much as I'm biased towards stuff like Seabound, I think this is the true like pinnacle of like Ninjago at its best. I think it's firing on all cylinders. I think the story is great. I think the characters are great. The animation is great. Like everything is just coming together in such a satisfying way, and I think it's all in due part to both the amazing character writing and also the reliance and like emphasis on overarching long-term storytelling that we've never really had to this extent. And I think it's paying off in a way that like not only subverts my expectations, but also just makes me super excited to see where things are going next. And I think,
know you've spoken at great length about like the Arin and Sora character arcs.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah, though those are just like Arin, Sora, and Lloyd, the 3 main pillars holding this show together, are providing us some of the most interesting, fun, and like just like subversive stories that we've seen from this show that just make me so excited to see what they're gonna do next. And everything around it is also great. I think my biggest issues come with just plot stuff, and that's kind of been a thing throughout all of Dragons Rising. Like even with season 1, like part 2, I thought the plot setup of the Dragon Cores was really contrived and not that interesting, and like the worst fetch quest we've ever had.
Agreed.
But, like, I didn't care because the character stuff was so good and the episodes were so entertaining, and everything that needed to be there was great. This season has a similar problem with like part 1 has a solid like plot, but part 2's plot is kind of shaky. Like it's kind of contrived, a lot of the stuff that goes on with the tournament. But the character stuff, again, elevates it, and the payoffs are so good, and everything is so solid that it's just like, on rewatches, I'm just appreciating all this stuff, and I feel like going back to other seasons, there's too many cracks in a lot of the stories and the arcs that they try to pull off, where it's like, I get what they're trying to do, but maybe I don't fully love it. Like Lloyd's story and throughout the Oni trilogy, or maybe like Harumi's story, or like Garmadon's story throughout the show, Nia's story in a lot of seasons. This show, Dragons Rising, doesn't have any of that for me. Every character story is doing exactly what it needs to do, and it's just, I think everything has just been super flawless characterization wise for all the characters and all the stuff. There's low points. There's characters like Zane maybe could use a lot more stuff, but in the time they have and all the stuff they're juggling at once, I'm just endlessly impressed. Like I don't know what other way to put it.
It doesn't have to be perfect for it to be good.
Yeah,
basically. Like everything will be flawed.
They're doing the stuff that's good is the stuff that I care about most, and the stuff that's maybe not so good is the stuff that I don't really care about as much. Like even if you go back to earlier seasons and say, okay, maybe the plots of these seasons were a lot better, maybe they handled certain stuff here better. No other Ninjago season has the sheer amount of just well like fleshed out overarching character narratives that Dragons Rising has had, and I think this season just raises the bar to the point where I'm like, going into season 2, I was like, I just want it to be better than season 1. I want it to take all the flaws of the season 1 and improve upon them, and I think they did that. Season 2, going into season 3, same thing. I know it seems crazy, but if they keep raising the bar like this, like I believe they can do it, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. So, yeah, sorry that was a long rant, but like,
no, you're all good.
I'm
You
just
can keep going. You've been waiting for like months. You go ahead.
I love Dragons Rising, and
I feel like
I don't know if I could be even more clear about that. It's just
I'll be a bit more truncated in my thing because I pretty much agree with a lot of that. The way I like to look at it is this: I don't buy into the narrative, and I would never say this that like Ninjago has never been good. Like I've been very critical of Ninjago over the years, but like it's still pretty good. Like it tries hard for like a kid's show. It tries hard for a Lego show. You know, it's dealt with good themes. It's had good stories and good character moments, even in seasons that like are flawed. But I do feel that like one consistent issue with Ninjago, and this is kind of a trend I've noticed through a lot of the seasons that have irked me kind of the most, is like it'll be there. It'll be like on the cusp of doing something, and then it will like face plant right at the end. Like think of it like you have a really good airplane, and the airplane's like a private jet, and it's like gearing up, it's fueling up, it's going down the runway, it's getting to take off, and then right before it lifts off, it starts like skidding and like it spins out and it doesn't like properly take off. That's how I would describe the Ice Emperor plot line. That's how I would describe the Oni trilogy plot line with March of the Oni. That would be a kid Wu. Like, oh, they build up the Wu getting older, and then he's right back to how he was before, status quo. You have like Harumi. Oh, you have this really interesting portrayal with Harumi in like Game of Masks. Oh, total psycho, devoid of any like interesting characterization. You have like, oh, Nia death, status quo change. Oh no, she's just back in like 5 minutes. Like they flirt with interesting stuff, but by the nature of the show kind of needing to kind of have the same status quo or reset things back, it never gets a chance to breathe. It always has to like wrap up super quick or never fully realize its potential. And with Dragons Rising, its biggest point is just that it has the time to breathe. It has so much time that nothing feels rushed. It's able to take these stories to their natural conclusion and explore them. I don't know that Arin's story is going to go where I would like it to go. It probably isn't. It's a Lego show at the end of the day, but I'll never be able to leverage the same complaints against it that I did against Zane's arc or any of the other ones because it's not rushed. It's clearly going at a pace that allows it to explore whatever themes it wants to explore, and no one's going to be able to point and blame a 10-minute filler episode where they fight the preeminent for it not getting to tell its story fully. And that's its biggest strength to me. I hope they continue to have the time they need to flesh things out, to explore these themes, to explore these characters, to explore the relationships, because there's tons of interesting stuff there. I'm hyped to see what they do with Jay, and I haven't felt that way since... Anyway, thank you guys for listening to today's episode of NINJAGOcast. That's really all we gotta say. Thumbs up to Dragons Rising Season 2, Part 2. Thumbs up to Dragons Rising in general. You guys are actual legends, like everybody on the team. Doc Wyatt, Kevin Burke, everybody else involved. You guys are legends. You guys just keep doing what you're doing. We're in a golden age, and I like chilling with you guys and talking about it. Super chat from World of Cars Entertainment, $1.99, delaying the stream. Also, Master Lloyd was great.
I also want to delay the stream a bit. One thing I think we should probably mention is the production values, once again, are amazing as well. Like the City of Temples looked so good. The Dragonstone Shrine. Like they have some really good set pieces. And I think in the fight scenes where they put a lot of like time into them, they're really good as well with all the powers. I think the soundtrack is really good. I really hope they release it soon on Ninjago Music. Like the tournament theme. And the voice acting, especially for Arin, I think in this season was outstanding. Also,
I agree 100%.
Do we want to speculate a little bit about like season 3? Like we have a bunch of cliffhangers at the end with like the what's it called? The dragons, the Source Dragon blade thing, like the dragon toe. Icon is what they call it. And with like the team being split, like with Arin being with Roz.
I mean, I don't really have any theories. Not to be a buzzkill, I don't really know what Roz's like actual plan
Mm-hmm.
is here, and I don't like. I'm kind of interested to find out, but he's at his like lowest point as well. Like he's
Yeah.
lost all of his like resources, and he's lost the team he was building, and now people are like hunting him, and like that's kind of interesting to explore. I don't know what the heck they're gonna do with it.
It did kind of
Genuinely.
mention that Roz used the dragon icon to capture the energy source dragon for Imperium. Like it kind of implied that, so I wonder if the next season is gonna be about like Roz trying to get the icon Lloyd has to do whatever his plan is, I guess.
It's possible. The ninja would definitely need to keep that under lock and key,
Yeah.
like a maximum security vault.
Lloyd's gonna lose it immediately.
Yes.
Better not. That'd be stupid idiot mode.
I do really wonder one thing, like in general, the set incorporation for this season was a bit odd. Like we have the giant like black wolf throne on the Source Dragon of Motion set. And that like never happened in the show, and I wonder if that's something that might be in season 3.
That'd be interesting. Like Arin steals the dragon icon back from the ninja and gives it to Roz.
Yeah.
He summons the source dragon.
And like captures it or something.
Captures it, yeah.
It's entirely possible. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's really all I got for today. I wanted to say thank you guys for coming out to chill with us. Only right at the end in the last like 10 minutes did we dip below 50 viewers. That's insane. We peaked at like almost 70, like 67.
wow.
Like that's crazy. You guys are legends. I'm sorry once again for the reaction videos. It's very much out of our control. But I'll try to throw up them all in like a Google Drive in the next few days, and I'll post it on the community tab if you want to check those out again. And we'll see what the future may hold with that. Until then, the next time you'll see us will either be for Shatterspin or it will be for the set reveals whenever those happen. My money is on set reveals. Oh, Sharda, $5. Delay the stream so I can give you more money. First of all, thank you. You guys are
It's like dinner time for me.
You guys are basically single-handedly funding the TTV message boards, so I appreciate it. Professor Plastics is joining right as the stream ends. Feels criminal. We'll watch the vid tomorrow, though. Why not watch it now? It'll go up right away because we don't have to edit anything out this time.
Yes.
But sorry about that. Thank you for checking it out either way. I hope you enjoy it. You'll see us soon enough one way or another. But for now, you can go ahead and hit the music, Sakota. Thank you guys very much for watching the Dragons Rising Season 2 Part 2 review. I have been Sensei Meso.
I've been Sakota.
I've been Josh.
I've been Bendo.
And I'm still purple.
And the dojo is now closed. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see y'all next time for more NinjagoCast. Farewell.